Naruto, Fox Writer. It said that the elemental continent was built on legends, and that legends are a way of understanding things greater than ourselves, forces that shape our lives, events that defy explanation, individuals whose lives soar to the heavens or fall to earth. These are how legends are born. Minato fell to one knee atop the head of Gamma Buddha. He had lashed out with everything he had against the legendary nine-tailed demon fox, but the beast refused to go down. But the youngest Hokage in history would be damned if he was going to let this monster destroy the land he had sworn to protect. If you've got any ideas, Gamma, I'm open to them, Minato said, panting. Gamma Buddha. He looked down and saw that the boss toad was completely frozen. Looking around, everything was frozen. Minato Nakamatsu, said a voice behind the fourth Hokage. I would like to make a proposition, and maybe even a favor. Minato spun around to come face to face with an old man with licked-back white hair, wearing a purple suit and coat, holding a cane with a glass skull on top. And who are you? Minato demanded, his grip on his kuni tightening. I am called Mephistopheles. The man said, I'm what you might call a devil. And that crimson monstrosity that is about to destroy your precious village is my oldest son. The nine-tailed fox is your son? Minato asked skeptically. All of the tailed beasts are my children, Mephistopheles said and shook his head. You try and do right by them and raise them well, but Kyuubi was always stubborn, even as a kid. He shook his head and sighed. You mentioned a deal? Minato said. Right to business, I like that, Mephistopheles said. Well, here is the thing, Minato, if I may call you that. Minato nodded. At this moment, your son, Naruto, has been born, and I've seen the kid Minato, and I could swear by him that he looks just like you. Despite everything that was going and who he was talking to, Minato couldn't help but smile with pride. However, I'm sorry to say that because of my son, he will not survive the night. His mother is already on her way to the next life. Kushina, Minato gasped. However, I can save her, Mephistopheles said. However, because of the cosmic order that myself and my opposite agreed on at the beginning of creation, such a feat would require a tribute. A life for a life, Minato said. Then I would gladly give my own for hers. True love, the devil said in a voice that was a mixture of admiration and disgust. Now, I also mentioned a favor. That you did, Minato said and stood waiting. Well, the thing is, my son had gotten a bit too full of himself, so I would like to seal him within a human, teach him some humility, Mephistopheles said. However, to do such a feat would require a newborn child, and since the only one at the time is Naruto, he trailed off and let the request hang. You wish to seal your son within mine, Minato said. Yes, I would, Mephistopheles said. He would have many of my son's strength, rapid healing that would make him nearly immortal, virtually limitless chakra, but also, he would become a rider, a bounty hunter who would punish the wicked and send those who escaped from hell back to it. I see, Minato said. He held his chin, deep in thought. On the one hand, his son would end up working for this devil one day, quite possible damning his own soul to hell. On the other hand, if didn't accept the deal, the nine-tailed fox would destroy his village, his family, and all that he held precious. With a sigh, he looked at Mephistopheles. I accept your offer, Mephistopheles, but I would like to watch over my son, even if it as nothing more than a spirit. Of course, I know better than anyone how a father can have a soft spot for their son, Mephistopheles said. We have a deal, Lord Hokage. That we do, Mephistopheles, Minato said, raising his hand. Call me Mephisto, the devil said, raising his hand and shaking Minato's. My friend. As they shook, Minato felt all life leave his body, and he collapsed on Gamma Buddha's head. Mephisto watched as Minato's spirit rose from his body. Now for my end of the deal, and don't worry, your lover made a full recovery as soon as your spirit left your body. He turned to the fox and waved his hand. Father, the fox stuttered as he gazed at the devil. You've become too arrogant for your own good, Kyuubi, Mephistopheles said, staring into his son's eyes. With the Hokage's assistance, you will be taught humility as you are sealed within his own son. What? The nine-tailed demon roared. Father, you cannot do this. Silence. Mephisto snapped, slamming his cane onto Gamma Buddha's head. You are in no position to tell me what I can and cannot do. He raised his hand, and, as the Kyuubi roared in rage and protest, he was slowly turned into a ball of red energy. Come, my friend, Mephisto said, turning to Minato. Let us go and see your son." In a flash, the two of them were in front of Kushina Uzumaki, who was holding the crying form of her son Naruto. "Kushina," Minato said, reaching out and stroking her chin. The woman gasped and jumped as if she could feel his touch, but not see him. "I am sorry, Minato, but she can only just barely sense you. She cannot see us," Mephisto said. Minato sighed and looked at his son. He did indeed look like his father, right down to the spiky blonde hair. "Let me do it, Mephisto," Minato said. "Let me be the one to give my son this power and curse." Mephisto nodded and handed Kyuubi over to him. Minato lowered the orb of energy and slowly pushed it into his son's stomach. "Forgive me, Naruto, for doing this to you, and for leaving you without a father." As the sphere slid deeper into Naruto's body, a three-whisker-like marks appeared on both sides of the boy's face. When it was done, a spiral seal appeared on his son's stomach. Kushina gasped at what had happened to her son, but, as if some unseen force, like a devil, was whispering in her ear, she knew that her son was now the container of the demon fox that had been attacking the village. N.Fr. Hizen Sarutobi, the third Hokage, sat down in the chair of the position he had not long ago retired from. He had hoped that he would never have to hold this title again, not just because of the never-ending paperwork, but because Minato had been a dear friend to him, and he had hoped that the man would live long enough that he could choose his successor, instead of having his predecessor retake the position. He sighed and he looked across his desk to Kushina Uzumaki, the lover of Minato Nakamai's as she held her son Naruto. She had just finished telling Sarutobi what she knew of her son. "Word about this is going to get out. These things always do," the third said, "and there is a large part of me that will want your son dead." "Over my dead body," Kushina snapped, holding her son tightly. "Not as long as I'm Hokage," Sarutobi agreed. "I will make it a law that if anyone ever speaks of what Naruto is to anyone of his generation, they will be put to death, as will happen if they should try and kill the boy." "Thank you, Sarutobi," Kanashi said, bowing to the man. "Of course, Kushina," Sarutobi said, walking over to the woman and placing a hand on Naruto's head. "Minato was a dear friend, just as you are, and if you need anything at all, please feel free to ask me." Kanashi smiled and nodded, as tears began to form in her eyes. "I just can't believe he's gone," she said, crying softly. Sarutobi just placed a hand on her shoulders and let her cry. He knew what it was like to lose the one you loved, having lost his own wife several years ago. The best medicine for it was to just get all the crying done and out of the way in the beginning. 5 years later, Naruto stood in the street of Konoha, holding his mother's hand as the ambassador from Kyuubi rode through the streets. The boy wore a dark blue leather jacket and pants with black boots. "Mom, if he's here, does this mean that there won't be any more fighting?" Naruto asked, looking up at his mother. "Not necessarily, Naruto," Kushina said, kneeling down next to her son. "There will always be fighting in the world, but because of this, then maybe there will be a little less." Naruto smiled. "When I become Hokage, I'm going to make it so that there's never any fighting," Naruto said with a smile. Several of the adults who were around them, or at least the ones that weren't shooting death glares at the boy and his mother, were shaking their heads and chuckling at the boy's innocence. That night, Naruto had gone out for a walk. He liked walking around at night. Most people were asleep, people that would try to hurt him when his mother wasn't around. He felt comfortable in the dark. It gave him a sense that he was being protection. Suddenly, Naruto froze in mid-step. Looking around, he saw that he was standing next to the Hyuga compound. Feeling like his insides were on fire, Naruto dropped to his knees, pain erupting throughout his entire body. Throwing his head back, he screamed in pain. But slowly, his scream seemed to change into laughter, the crazed laughter of a man possessed. His flesh slowly started to burn away along with his muscles and eyes. Before long, nothing was left of the boy but a flaming skeleton. The skeleton cracked its neck before it took off to the inside of the Hyuga compound. The ambassador of Kyuubi ran with a smile on his face. The Hyuga child bound and gagged under his arm. He suddenly froze when he saw something appeared out of nowhere. It looked like a flaming skeleton dressed in leather. "You guilty," the thing said in a deep, raspy voice, pointing a bony finger at the man. Unimpressed by the supposed genjutsu, the Kyuubi ninja pulled out a strange chain that had links made of shuriken, and the ends were kuni daggers. The Kyuubi ninja lashed out with the chain, but the creature caught it easily. The man's eyes widened as flames seemed to flow through the chain until it burned the Kyuubi's arms, causing him to drop the chain. The demon, the Kumo ambassador, clearly didn't think it was a jinjutsu anymore, wrapped the chain around its skeletal hand before it lunged forward and slammed its fist into the man's face, the blades tearing at it, dropping him. The skeleton wrapped the chain around the Kumo ninja's neck twice and started to pull. He screamed as he felt the burning hot steel slice into his flesh. "Stop!" split a new voice from the darkness. The creature looked with the two flaming orbs that acted as its eyes and saw that the girl the Kumo nin had tried to kidnap. "Please don't kill him," she begged the demon. The creature saw her innocence, her purity, and let the chain go slack. The Kumo nin dropped unconscious, his wounds burned shut. Many of the Hugo adults had run out and saw the flaming skeleton, who looked back and took off, vaulting over the wall and disappearing. "Hinata, are you all right?" Hishayan asked, kneeling down next to his daughter. "Why, yes, father," Hinata said. She looked back to where that strange demon had disappeared from. NFR. Naruto walked through the forests, still a flaming skeleton, making his way back home when he came across something, a young fox kit that had been wounded by a hunter. Naruto knelt down next to the kit and waved his hand over the creature. His flames licked the young fox's wounds and healed them. Slowly, the kit's entire body began to catch fire and grow. Before too long, the flaming skeleton of a fox with 9 tails the size of a small horse stood before Naruto. Naruto stroked the fox's fire fur before he mounted it. Rains of fire sparked into existence and slid into Naruto's hands. Giving them a crack, the rider took of leaving behind a small trail of fire. When Naruto finally reached his home, the sun had begun to rise. The instant the light hit him, Naruto dropped to the ground as the flames faded away and his skin grew back, the same thing happening to the fox. As soon as he returned to normal, Naruto collapsed onto the bed, the fox curling up on his chest. NFR. Naruto opened his eyes to find himself in some kind of sewer. The water was coming halfway up his shin, and the only light seemed to be coming from the red light at the end of the tunnel. Slowly, Naruto walked towards it until he found himself in front of a set of bars. Well, my jailer has finally paid me a visit," said a deep, booming voice. Behind the bars, a large set of red, slit eyes and a large fanged smile looked out at Naruto. Naruto screamed and jumped back and landed, finding himself in the arms of a man who looked like an older version of himself. "Sure, it's okay, my son. I won't let anything happen to you." "Dad?" Naruto asked, looking up at the man. "That's right, son. I'm here," Minato said, hugging the boy. "Dad, where are we?" Naruto asked. "We're inside your mind, Naruto," Minato said. "I'm here to tell you everything." And so Minato began his tale of the fox, Mephisto, and of how Naruto was now the rider. "So, does this mean I'm going to become that flaming skeleton thing every night?" Naruto asked, afraid. "Don't worry about it, kid. From now on at night, your dad and I are going to teach you how to control your rider powers," the Kyuubi said. "Why would you want to help me?" Naruto asked. "Because if you die, kid, then I die, and believe it or not, I'm not ready to go back to hell just yet," the Kyuubi explained. "Besides, my father locked me in here in the hopes of teaching me illusion, so I figure if I learn it, then maybe I can get out of here and reunite with my brothers and sisters. I miss them." "Naruto, I'm sorry to have placed his burden on you, and if you hate me, I would not hold it against you," Minato said. "I could never hate you, Dad," Naruto said. "I understand why you did what you did. So I'm going to make this curse my power and use it to fight against those who spill innocent blood, being a spirit of vengeance." Minato smiled and beamed at his son. "Naruto, you have made me very proud," he said, hugging Naruto tightly. "We'll begin your rider training tomorrow, and you might want to ask your mother to begin your ninja training." Minato placed a hand on Naruto's head, and slowly, the whole world faded away. NFR. Naruto woke up to find the kit resting on his chest and the chain weapon lying off the side of his bed. "Well, I guess if I'm going to be a rider, you must be my ride," Naruto said, stroking the kit's head. "Now what am I going to call you?" "My name is Kurama," said a voice in Naruto's head, causing him to yelp and jumped back. "Why, you can talk," Naruto stuttered. "Only with you, master," Kurama said, standing up and yawning. Okay, but please don't call me master, just call me Naruto," Naruto said with a smile. "Very well," Kurama said with a nod. "Naruto," Kushina said, staring at her son, "where did that fox come from, and why were you talking to it?" "Mom, we need to talk," Naruto said, looking up at his mother. He told Kushina everything that had happened to him the night before, from transforming into the rider to his conversation with his father and his tenant. Kushina watched stunned at her son's explanation of events. So, you know everything your father did, Kushina said, looking at her son. Yeah, Mom. And I'm happy I know. It makes me feel like a hole has been filled. He smiled. Oh, and Dad said that while he and Kyuubi work with on my rider powers, he said you should start me with my ninja training. All right, but I should warn you, son, Kushina said, cracking her knuckles and making Naruto flinch with fear. When it comes to ninja training, I can be one hard bitch. Naruto gulped and looked at Kurama. No way am I getting involved in this, the fox said, springing up and running as fast as its little legs could carry it. Naruto slowly turned his eyes to his mother, fear clear and present on his face. 3 years later, Naruto and Kushina walked to the gates of the Ninja Academy, ignoring the glares that were being sent in their direction. Kushina knelt down and hugged her son. You be good now, Naruto, and no going flaming skeleton on anybody, she said. Naruto chuckled. I can only do that when I'm around evil, Mom, Naruto said, and I doubt that any of these teachers are as evil as you. Kushina chucked and released her son to let him run off to get to class. On the way there, he paused when he saw something, or to be more accurate, someone, a girl around his age with pale white eyes and shoulder-length blue hair. You know her, don't you, Naruto? Kurama said, jumping up onto his partner's shoulder. I saved her life the first night I went rider, Naruto replied. He looked at the girl. Now that he managed to get a really good look at her, he couldn't help but think she looked kind of pretty. Hiding and waiting until she was alone, he took a deep breath and walked over to her and placed a hand on her shoulder. She jumped and gave a frightened squeak before turning around. Sorry, I didn't mean to scare you, Naruto said quickly, holding his hands up. I just, well, thought you were kind of cute and I wanted to say hi. He started to blush and the girl smiled at him. It's nice to meet you, she said with a small bow. My name is Hinata Hyuga. Naruto Uzumaki, Naruto said with a smile. Kurama jumped up onto Naruto's shoulder and gave a yip. And this is Kurama. He held out his elbow, which the young fox jumped onto, and looked at Hinata. She took a step back, but when the kit cocked its head to one side, she lost her resolve and stepped forward to reach out and stroke its head. I like this girl, Kurama said. Naruto chuckled. You and me both, partner, Naruto replied. Come on, Hinata. We don't want to be late for class. He offered his arm, and Hinata tentatively took it. Kurama also jumped off Naruto's shoulder and onto hers. With a small giggle, Hinata and Naruto walked into the classroom. Unknown to them, however, Hinata's father had been watching them with an uncharacteristic smile on his face. That is quite a son you have there, Kushina, Hishin said, turning to the woman. Hinata hasn't been the same since her attack those years ago, but your boy broke through the shell she made for herself in a second. Naruto has that power, the power to bring out a person who's been locked away, Kushina said, standing next to the Hyuga Lord. I pity those who are too stupid to see that he is a boy and not the demon that is sealed inside him, he said. Meanwhile, Naruto and Hinata walked into the classroom and quickly found 2 open seats and sat down. Kurama jumped down and curled up on Naruto's desk. Not long after, their teacher Irika Yumino walked into the room and began the start of class. Naruto let his mind wander around, and eventually it landed on his training. During Naruto's ninja training, he had learned his mother's signature technique, the Shadow Clone Jutsu. With it, his training had increased, having many of his clones working on different exercises, some on his taijutsu, some on dispelling jinjutsu, some on his ninjutsu. However, throughout his training, his old jacket had been ruined, so, as a gift, Kushina had given him a new one, a black one with spikes along the shoulders along with a matching pair of gloves with spiked knuckles. He'd also found a set of weapons that worked for him, a pair of sais. He wasn't sure why, he just liked the feel of the weapons in his hands. His rider training with his father and Kyuubi had been amazing. He had learned that when he had healed Kurama with his hellfire, it had made him his ride, one that Kyuubi had found appropriate since he had a fox sealed inside him. He had also learned that he could fuse his hellfire into the chain weapon he'd gotten from that Kumonin and into his sais, making them hot enough to cut through just about anything, and, after some practice, learned how to recall his sais after he'd thrown them, and to be able to break his chain and send the shuriken chain links and recall them when he was finished. Kyuubi said that since those weapons had been merged with his hellfire, they became a part of him body and soul. When the lecture was over and Kurama brought Naruto back to Earth by jumping on his head, Naruto smacked him off while he stood up and stretched. He looked down at Hinata and smiled at her, and she smiled back. "So did I miss anything?" Naruto asked, yawning a little, which caused Hinata to giggle. "Not much, just how things are going to go in class," Hinata said. "It's lunchtime right now." "Okay, so where do you want to go for lunch?" Naruto asked. "I mean, if you have plans already." "No, I'd be happy to have lunch with you, Naruto," Hinata said, smiling widely. "All right, come on, I know this awesome ramen shop in town," Naruto said, taking her hand and leading her out of the school and into town. Together, they made their way to Ichiraku Ramen, the best ramen stand in town. "Hey, old man, Naruto called when he walked in. "Ramen for two." "For two?" a name asked, coming from the back. Well, well, looks like little Naruto went and got himself a girlfriend." Naruto and Hinata both blushed when said that and glanced at each other. "She's not my girlfriend, Naruto said. "We just met today." "And you're already treating her to lunch. My Naruto, you sure work fast," said, teasing. Naruto said, whining. All right, what'll you have?" asked, done teasing Naruto and Hinata. "I'll have chicken flavor," Naruto grumbled. "I'll have miso, please," Hinata said. "All right, one chicken and one miso ramen for the happy couple," said with a smile, causing the two of them to blush. When their ramen came, they ate in an awkward silence. "So, what's your family like?" Naruto asked, breaking the silence. "They're okay, but my father thinks I'm weak," Hinata said quietly. "It's not my fault. I've just been nervous since my attack." "Yeah, I heard about that. Something about a flaming skeleton," Naruto said. Hinata nodded vigorously. "He was amazing. He was about to kill the person who tried to kill him, but stopped when I called out," Hinata said. "I'm not sure why. Maybe the request from such an innocent voice is all it takes to get a person to stop," Naruto said. Hinata blushed and smiled at him. They finished their meal, paid, and left. They almost didn't even realize they were walking back into the classroom holding hands. A few of the students were giggling slightly, while a couple of the guys, Kiba and Izumki in particularly, were glaring at Naruto with envy. After school, the two made plans to get together that weekend in the park. When Naruto walked over to his mom, she was smiling at him. "And just who were you talking to, young man?" she asked. "Her name's Hinata Hyuga," Naruto said, "and I think she's my best friend." Kushina smiled warmly at her son, overjoyed that he had made a friend. "Well, we'll have to set up a play date with her father," she said. "Well, we kind of did already," Naruto said, rubbing the back of his neck nervously. "We kind of were hoping to get together in the park this weekend." "Oh, I'm so proud. My little baby boy has his first date," Kushina gushed, hugging her son tight. "Mom, stop, you're embarrassing me," Naruto said, turning red. "I know, sweetie," Kushina said, smiling sweetly. "It's a mother's job." Naruto groaned as his mother took his hand and led him away from the school. Naruto hung out at home, watching for the sun to go down. When it finally did, he glanced over at Kurama. "Ready to ride, partner?" Naruto asked. "Do you hold the most power demon in the world inside you?" Kurama retorted. The two of them jumped out of the window, bursting into flaming skeletons as they went down. Midway, Naruto slid onto Kurama and they hit the ground, creating a small crater. "Let's ride," Naruto said in his raspy voice. With a snap of his reins, Kurama took off, burning a trail through the village. Together they rode towards the Hokage monument until Naruto felt a pull of great evil in the direction of the Uchiha compound. With a tug of the reins, Naruto steered Kurama towards the direction of the evil. He leapt up over the wall until he found himself staring down what looked the entire male population of the Uchiha clan. "So, the mysterious Fox Rider has appeared before us," said the head of the Uchiha clan. "Fox Rider, I like it," Naruto muttered, with Kurama nodding as well. "I have sensed great evil here," he said, addressing the clan. "While you have not spilt any innocent blood, it is not too late to decide against whatever you're planning. As touching as your concern is, Rider, we have planned and all that we have done to take our rightful place as leaders of the Hidden Leaf Village. We cannot stop now," Uchiha said. Naruto sighed and shook his bony flaming skull. "Then I have no choice," he said, grabbing his chain and pulling it off him before charging it with hellfire. Cracking his neck, he charged into the crowd of Uchihas, swinging the chain and cutting through them like a hot knife through butter. the whole time feeling sorrow for those he killed. Kurama was also getting into the fight, clawing, biting, and impaling several Uchiha with his tails. When he was finished, only one left standing was the youngest one, Yinbyu agent Itachi Uchiha. "You!" Naruto rasped, pointing at Itachi, who flinched, innocent. He turned, climbed onto Kurama's back, and took off, leaving Itachi to faint. For years later, as the sun crept into the room of one Naruto Uzumaki, he was trying to crawl deeper into the covers. "Naruto, it's time for school," Kushina called. "The party you are trying to reach is dead. Please try again later," Naruto muttered. "All right, I'll just tell Hinata you're not up for walking to school today," Kushina said with a smirk. "Maybe Kiba will go with her." She then stepped back and waited for her words to take effect. Naruto became a whirlwind, gathering up his cloths, said, and fox before shooting out the door, only to find Hinata not there. "Have I ever told you you're more evil than the fox?" Naruto asked his mother. "Yes, and I'm sure your father would have agreed with you. Rest his soul," Kushina said. Naruto sighed. After the Uchiha incident, Minato had decided that Naruto didn't need him to stick around, and, after promising to always watch out for Naruto, faded away. Groaning at his mother's trick, Naruto walked back in and started to make himself breakfast. He was finishing his 5 bowl of cereal when there was a knock at the door. Kushina opened it to find a smiling Hinata Hyuga. "Good morning, Mrs. Uzumaki. Is Naruto up yet?" Hinata asked. "Been up for a while, Hinata," Naruto said, walking to the door with a smile on his face and Kurama on his shoulder. "Mom here tricked me into getting up by saying that you were going to walk to school with Kiba instead of me." Hinata smiled, and Naruto began to feel nervous about the evil glint that was in her eye. "Well, Kiba is my second choice if you're not able to come," she said mischievously. Naruto groaned and looked at Kurama. "Women, a partner," the fox said. "No kidding," Naruto agreed. After kissing his mother goodbye, Naruto and Hinata left for their last day of Ninja Academy. "So, if I really wasn't around, you would hang out with Kiba?" Naruto asked. Kiba and his dog Akamaru were Naruto and Kurama's rivals. They were friends, but when it came to being a ninja, those two would fight until neither one of them could move. They were also competing against each other for the affections of a certain pale-eyed heiress. After being friends for nearly 4 years, Naruto had found he was starting to feel certain feelings for Hinata, but wasn't sure on whether or not to act on them for fear of ruining their friendship. "Only because he's my best friend, next to you, of course," Hinata said. Her friendship with Naruto had done wonders for her. She had a lot of confidence. Her stutter was gone. You would have never guessed that she had felt any trauma from nearly being kidnapped all those years ago. They walked into the classroom and survived their fellow students. Sakura and Ino were fighting over who would sit next to Sasuke, who was just staring ahead coldly, his only thoughts on finding whoever it was who slaughtered most of his clan, despite his brother telling him to forget about it. Shikamaru was snoozing while Choji was munching away on a bag of chips. Shino was his usual stone-faced self, although at least it was his clan's custom instead of Sasuke, who had no real reason to be cold. Kiba and Akamaru were looking at them with smiles on his faces. Well, a smile on Kiba's. Akamaru was just sitting on his head happily with his tongue hanging out. Kurama jumped down from Naruto's shoulder and went to tackle Akamaru. "Betcha Akamaru wins, Foxface," Kiba said as Naruto and Hinata sat down. "Whatever you say, dog breath," Naruto replied. "Now boys, behave," Hinata said. She hated having to play referee for the two boys. She knew they were close friends, but she still hated it whenever they would start to argue. A minute later, Irika Yumino walked into the classroom and explained that in order to pass their final exam, they would need to create a clone and that they would be called in one at a time. Naruto sighed and rubbed the back of his head. "Something wrong?" Kiba asked. "Well, it's just that. I've never been able to get the basic clone down, but I can do shadow clones no problem," Naruto explained. "What's the difference?" Kiba asked. "A shadow clone is like an exact duplication of the person who creates it, complete with half the performer's chakra," Hinata explained, "as opposed to just a regular clone who's just a shadow that can't really do anything." "So, it sounds like you've got it no problem," Kiba said. "The thing is, I don't know if I should use the shadow clone. I don't know if it's right to, Naruto explained. "Look, you know how to do it. So why should you not bring it out and show people what you can do?" Kiba said. Naruto smiled at the boy who was both his arch-rival and quite possibly his best friend. Naruto relaxed for the rest of the time to wait until it was finally his turn. He walked into the exam room. "All right, Naruto, if you would please create a clone for us," Iruka said. "How about I do you one better, Iruka-sensei?" Naruto said, crossing his fingers. Shadow clone jutsu. With a large puff of smoke, 3 other Narutos appeared in the room, not transparent clones, but the flesh and blood shadow clones that his mother had taught him. Iruka was smiling. He knew the boy had so much potential, and right here in front of him was proof of it. "Very good, Naruto, you pass," Iruka said. "Hold on, Iruka." Mizuki, the second teacher, interjected. The task was to create 3 clones, not shadow clones, which is a forbidden technique that I can only assume that Naruto found by cheating. "Hey, I didn't cheat. My mom taught me that just to." Naruto countered, feeling defensive. "And in all honesty, Iruka-sensei, I really can't do the basic clone jutsu. When I talk to my mom about it, she says that I have too much chakra to properly control." "Well, thank you for your honest, Naruto. And as far as being able to use clones, well, I would say that some chakra control exercises would help with that problem. The overall fact that you can summon shadow clones is impressive in and of itself. So, as I said before, you pass. Congratulations." He handed Naruto a headband, which he proudly took. "Thank you, Iruka-sensei," Naruto said, bowing to Iruka and walking out, tying the headband around his waist like a belt. When he stepped out of the academy building, he ignored the cold glances that were being shot at him by some of the parents and walked straight to his mom, who was with Hinata, Kiba, and their families. "Looks like we've all made it," Hinata said with a smile. "Good thing. If you hadn't made it, Naruto, I would have had to beat the crap out of you," Kiba said, punching his friend in the arm. Naruto smiled at his friend. "Like you could ever take me, Kiba," Naruto replied, punching him back. Slowly, the two kept punching each other until they were rolling on the ground, beating on one another. Hinata sighed and pulled the two apart. "What have I told you two about fighting?" she asked them. "Not to do it in public," they said in unison. Hinata smiled as she let them go. "Hishin, I think your little girl has got our boys whipped," Kushinia said, with Kiba's mom nodding in agreement. "Well, I think that we should all go out and celebrate the kids becoming ninja," Hishin said. Ever since he had met Kushina, his normally hard, emotionless shell had all but fallen away after being around the Uzumakis. "Ichiraku ramen for everyone, on me." Naruto jumped into the air and yelled for joy. Together, they all went to their own homes with plans to meet up at sunset at the ramen bar. "I'm getting closer to beating that white mutt, but I have to admit, the mongrel is an excellent fighter," Kurama was saying. "Hey, be nice. We may have our problems with Kiba and Akamaru, but they're good friends to us," Naruto countered. "I'm afraid I'm something of the middle demon in this situation." The fox weighed, putting its 2 cents in. "While the people and dogs of that clan can be pains, they are good fighters and loyal to a fault to those who earn it." Naruto shook his head. It was a pain having 2 foxes speaking in his head, one demon, the other just enhanced. A couple hours later, Naruto and Kushina walked to Ichiraku to meet up with their friends. Naruto pulled up a seat at the bar next to Hinata, with Kiba on her other side. After ordering their ramen from a giggling Ayam, she still loved to tease Naruto about his crush on Hinata, and having Kiba as a rival only made it worse for him. Talk turned to teams. "So who do you think we'll get for teammates?" Naruto asked. "As long as I'm not stuck with Sasuke or one of his idiotic fangirls, I'm happy," Kiba said. Here, Naruto agreed, raising his glass. "I think it would be great if I was on the same team as my 2 favorite guys," Hinata said, slinging her arms around Naruto and Kiba's shoulders. Akamaru and Kiba yipped up at her. "Sorry, boys, for favorite guys." They laughed until Naruto groaned, holding his head. "You okay, Naruto?" Kiba asked. "Just a headache," Naruto groaned. "I felt it too, Naruto. It's time to go to work," Kurama said, sitting up and looking up at his partner. "Excuse me for a bit," he said before running out of the bar with Kurama at his side. Once they got into back alley, the 2 of them burst into flames. Naruto rotated his bony neck. "Let's ride," the rider said, mounting his ride. Snapping his flaming reins, Naruto and Kurama took off, unaware that they had been seen. "So that's the famous rider," Kiba said. Hinata was going glassy-eyed seeing her savior so close. "Come on," she said, taking Kiba's hand. "Wait a minute, are we going after him?" Kiba asked, but then caught sight of Hinata's face. "Yep, we are." They ran after the rider's flaming trail. NFR. Mizuki paused to rest in a clearing, the forbidden scroll on his back. Why his mysterious client wanted this scroll, he didn't really care, just as long as he would get paid. He felt a little bad that he'd killed those guards, but he shook it off. Wasn't the first time he'd killed someone. Pausing to catch his breath, he looked around, making sure that he hadn't been followed. When he looked up, he saw that a giant ring of fire appeared around him. Mizuki Rokusho, a deep, raspy voice hissed out through flames. Your soul is stained by the blood of the innocent. Mizuki's eyes widened, as a flaming skeleton wearing leather was glaring at him and pointing at him. Panicking, he threw a giant shuriken at the skeleton, who lashed out with a red-hot chain of shuriken with a kuni tip. He wrapped it around the shuriken and threw it back at Mizuki, who was only just able to dodge the whirling blade of death. He tried to run, but found his path blocked by a giant flaming fox skeleton with 9 tails. A 9-tailed fox, Mizuki gasped, whirling back to Naruto, who had wrapped his chain twice around his chest. It's you, the demon brat, Naruto Uzumaki. The skeleton cracked his knuckles. Your soul is stained by the blood of the innocent. The rider repeated, grabbing Mizuki by his vest. Look into my eyes and feel their pain. Mizuki felt himself unable to resist and found himself staring into the 2 furry orbs that functioned as the skeleton's eyes. Through those eyes, he could see what he had just done on this night, and also all the things he'd done during missions that were not a part of his orders, killing people he was supposed to just capture, murdering those guards. Only he saw that these were happening to him. Mizuki didn't even know he was screaming. He only stopped screaming, on the outside, when Naruto looked away and let him slump to the ground. NFR. Kiba and Hinata stood behind a tree, staring at what the rider had just done to Mizuki. When he stopped screaming and the rider dropped him, the flames died down and the rider's flames died down around him. Carefully, Hinata walked out from her hiding place. Hinata, what are you doing? Kiba hissed. Hinata ignored him and walked over to the rider. The skeleton looked over at her before looking away. Monster, Hinata heard it growl. I'm not afraid, Hinata said, and she wasn't. This was the same creature that had saved her life from a fate probably worse than death. She reached up to touch the rider's bony cheek. As her fingers grew closer, the flames died away and skin grew back, skin with whisker marks on its cheeks, slowly followed by blonde hair, and then sparkling blue eyes. In Naruto. I see it, but I don't believe it, Kiba said as he and Akamaru came into the clearing. Before anything else could be said, Naruto ran to a nearby tree and threw up. Hey, you okay, man? Kiba asked, running to his friend's side. Everything he'd done, Naruto gasped before throwing up again. All the people he'd killed, all those innocents. Tears were streaming down his face now. Kurama had changed back and started to rub his head against Naruto's hand. Naruto felt a pair of arms wrap around him and hold him close. It's okay, Naruto, just let it out, Hinata whispered in his ear. He felt another hand on his shoulder and another furry head start to nuzzle into his hand. We're here for you, Naruto, Kiba said. Iruka appeared on a tree branch watching Naruto being comforted by his friends. Their parents appeared beside Iruka a second later. Those are some impressive kids you all have, Iruka said. They didn't say anything as they watched as their children stood around each other, caring for one of their own as if they were already a team. I think one of the teams has already been assembled, Kushina said, glancing at the others who nodded. As do I, said a wizened old voice that caught everyone's attention. Iruka and both generations of ninja turned to see the Hokage walking out of the shadows. Hey, old man, Naruto said, looking up and whipping away his tears. Kiba and Hinata looked at him in shock at addressing the Hokage like that. They were just as shocked to see the Hokage chuckle at the informal name. Hello, Naruto, he said. And as I was saying, I do believe that one of the teams for the next generation of ninjas has been chosen. Naruto looked back and forth between Kiba and Hinata. Despite everything they'd just gone through, they were all smiling. I had originally planned to have you on the same team as Sasuke Uchiha and Sasakura Haruno, and I would have had Shino Abrimi working with Kiba and Hinata. Moody emo boy and screaming fangirl number 1, yikes, Naruto said with a shudder. Damn, I feel sorry for Shino, Kiba agreed. Hinata giggled at her 2 friends and smiled at her new teammates. NFR. Naruto woke up a week later and stretched. He'd met with the Hokage's grandson Konohamaru. Good kid, but a little hyper and too eager to prove himself. Naruto had helped set the kid straight with Hinata's help. Getting a quick shower and some breakfast, Naruto walked out with Kurama on his shoulder. Hinata was standing outside smiling at Naruto, while Kiba stood by her side, with Akamaru sitting on his head. "You ready, team?" Naruto asked. "We've been waiting on you, Foxface," Kiba said, grinning. "Screw you, dog breath," Naruto shot back. "Boys," Hinata said threateningly. They both looked at her before glancing at their partners, who looked back at their partners before shaking their heads, clearly stating, "Don't look at us." "Come on, guys, let's get going," Naruto said. "We're not really an official team until Iruka calls it out." They arrived at the classroom and took their seats, waiting for Iruka to come in. "All right, everyone," Iruka said when he came in. "Here are the teams that you will all be in for the next phase of your ninja carriers." As he began going through the list, Naruto, Hinata, and Kiba were quietly discussing the teams that were formed. Team 7, Sasuke Uchiha, Sakura Harino, and Shino Aburame. Iruka called out, soon followed by an eardrum-shattering scream from Sakura. "Geez, poor Shino," Kiba said. "What? You say something, Kiba?" Naruto asked, digging a finger in his ear. "I think I've gone deaf." "No kidding. Could you imagine if both Ino and Sakura had been on Sasuke's team?" Hinata asked, causing all three of them to shiver. Team 8, Kiba Inuzuka, Naruto Uzumaki, and Hinata Hyuga. He shot a small smile in the trio's direction as they just smiled with joy. With last year's Team 9 still in circulation, that only leaves Team 10, Shikamaru Nara, Choji Akamachi, and Ino Yamanaka. And with that, I would like to wish you all good luck in the future. As Iruka left, Naruto slid his hands behind his head and put his feet up on the table. "Nothing left to do now, but wait for our sensei to get here," he said, smiling at Kiba and Hinata. "Hopefully we'll get someone cool who can teach us a bunch of kick-ass moves," Kiba said. "I just hope he treats us right," Naruto said, glancing at Hinata. He had no problem with how people treated him these days, but people still saw Hinata as weak because she would tend to flinch every now and then during a sparring match. Naruto and Kiba had tried to help her, but there was only so much that they could do to help. "Well, we've got till lunch before the senseis show up. Who's hungry?" Hinata asked, producing a small lunch for the three of them. If Naruto and Kiba could truly agree on, it was when Hinata made something to eat. Then do not fight for fear, she would take away the delicious food that was prepared by the hands of an angel. They had discovered this early on because whenever they would end up arguing over the last piece of Hinata's cooking, she would take care of the problem by eating it herself. "So, there's only one thing I don't get," Kiba said as they ate. "Only one thing," Naruto said with a smirk, but clutched his food closer for fear of Hinata taking it away. "How in the hell, no pun intended, did you become a flaming badass in the first place?" Kiba asked. Hinata looked at Naruto quizzically. She'd been wondering how Naruto became her skeletal savior. Naruto sighed. He'd had a feeling this would come up between the three of them. During their lunch, Naruto explained everything to his new teammates, everything. His father being the fourth Hokage, his deal with Mephisto, and having the nine-tailed fox sealed inside of him. He'd been a little worried through the whole thing, nervous about their reactions. When he finally finished, he looked back and forth between Kiba's expressions of awe while Hinata, well, her expression was ranging from shock to awe to sorrow. "So, that's why everyone in the village hates you," Kiba said. "Because they think that you're the fox." "Pretty much," Naruto sighed. "And I have to admit, I'm pretty surprised I haven't gone rider on over half this village." "The half that wants you dead?" Hinata asked. "No, the half that have tried to kill me over the past 12 years or so," Naruto said simply. Kiba and Hinata were stunned at how nonchalant Naruto was speaking about it. After that, they let the subject drop. Not long after that, several of the teams were being led out of the rooms. Team 8, a voice said as Itachi Uchiha walked into the room. "My name is Itachi Uchiha, and I'll be your sensei." "Why are you teaching them, Itachi?" Sasuke asked, angered that his brother was teaching outsiders and not him. "Sorry, lil bro, but Lord Hokage wanted me teaching these guys," Itachi said, jerking his thumb at Team 8. "Don't worry though, you and your team are getting a good sensei, hell maybe one of the best. Well, let's get going, you three." He walked out of the room and Naruto, Kurama, Hinata, Kiba, and Akamaru jumped down and followed their new sensei out of the room. He led them to a small dinner, which surprised them. "All right, well, let's get to know each other. As you've probably already figured out, my name is Itachi Uchiha. My likes are my little brother, Poki, and this village. My dislikes are anyone who thinks that the Uchiha are gods among men. My hobbies are looking after my family and training. My dream is to work on bring up the Uchiha clan to its true glory. He glanced at Kiba. How about you start us off? I'm Kiba Inazuka. My likes are my family, friends, and my partner Akamaru. My dislikes are cats and bad food. My hobbies are running, fighting, and training. My dream, well, one is to beat Naruto, and the other is kind of like yours Itachi-sensei, to become a great leader of my clan. And for Akamaru and me to find a couple of nice girls, get married, and have a whole lot of kids. Itachi nodded, making mental notes about the boy. He seems like a good kid with an honest dream. I'm a bit nervous about his rivalry with a teammate, but from what Lord Hokage told me, they can put it aside when it's important. He thought, all right, you're next, miss. My name is Hinata Hyuga. My likes are my family, and my two best friends, Akamaru and Kurama yipped at her. For best friends, sorry guys, I'll get that right sooner or later. My dislikes are people who think I'm weak when they don't give me a chance, and anyone who would hurt someone I care about. My hobbies are practicing my own style of the gentle fist and cooking. My dream is to become a great clan head. All right, certainly an interesting one for a Hyuga, not the self-centered pain in the ass like the rest of them. Got a strong bond with these two, especially with Naruto. Itachi surmised. And last but I'm sure not least, Naruto Uzumaki. My likes are running free, ramen, my mother, and my friends. My dislikes are anyone who treats my family or friends and would harm an innocent person. My hobbies are training with my mom and spending time with my friends. My dream is to become Hokage and get rid of fighting. Hell of a dream, and as loyal as they get, I bet. No surprise that all those horror stories I hear from the village are bullshit. Granted, most of those people are complete and total morons. Itachi smirked. All right, normally, we'd go through an exercise to see how well you guys are with teamwork, but Lord Hokage has told me that you all trust each other well enough to the point where that's not necessary. So, tomorrow meet at training ground for training. About a week after that, we'll get down to missions. Dismissed. Itachi turned and left, leaving his new team behind. Training of Team 7. Naruto stood on one of his apartment with Kurama watching the sunrise. This was his favorite time of day. Ever since he'd used the penance stare on Mizuki, he'd been plagued by nightmares about the things he'd seen the man do. Sometimes going for a ride with Kurama would help. Other nights he would visit Kiba and work things out with their fists, flesh and blood for Naruto to make sure he didn't hurt Kiba too much. And when that didn't help, he would go to Hinata and she would just let him cry at her on her shoulder. Every now and then he would fall asleep in her arms. If Hishin ever found them in the same room, he would just close the door and let them be. Naruto sighed, Kurama sitting on his shoulder and gently licking his cheek. More nightmares, Naruto? Kurama asked. Yeah, I can't believe all those things Mizuki did all those things. Naruto sighed, rubbing his eyes. How can anyone do that? You people are a strange race, Kurama said. Some have an insane desire for distraction and chaos. Are you okay, Naruto? Kushina asked as she walked up behind her son. Just having a hard time falling asleep at night, Mom, Naruto said. After Mizuki? Kushina asked. Yeah, after Mizuki, Naruto said. Kushina walked up and wrapped her arms around her son's shoulders. You did all right, Naruto, and to feel terrible about it means that you're human. Never forget that, Kushina said. Thanks, Mom, Naruto said. Well, I told Hinata and Kiba I'd meet them for breakfast before meeting Itachi-sensei. And with that he took off, leaving Kushina smiling at her son. Naruto stopped just outside of the Hyuga compound and knocked. Neji Hyuga opened the gates. Hello, Neji, Naruto said in monotone. He'd had never gotten along with the boy, and the branch family member had always had a chip on his shoulder the size of Hokage Tower. Uzumaki, Neji said in a growl that reminded Naruto a little of Sasuke. The two stood glaring at each other until Hinata walked up to them. Thank you for answering the gate, Neji, Hinata said politely. Ready to go, Naruto? You bet, Hinata, Naruto said, turning away from Neji. No offense, Hinata, but that cousin of yours really bugs the hell out of me. I know, Naruto. He's just bitter about how the branch family is treated, Hinata said. Not that I can blame him. I know that's the reason you want to be clan head, so that you can modify that cage bird seal you were telling me and Kibo about. And like I promised you, when I become Hokage, I will back you up on that completely. Talking about the cage bird seal? Kiba asked as he walked up, Akamaru at his side. Naruto nodded as Kurama jumped down to stand by Akamaru. Yeah, and about what we're going to do about it when we're calling the shots. Naruto said, "It's just like I told you guys before, when I'm clan head, you'll have my full support." Kiba said as Akamaru barked happily. "Thank you, both of you," Hinata said, hugging her two friends. "Come on, let's get some breakfast, I'm starving," Naruto said, holding his stomach. "Race you there, buddy," Kiba said, taking off, Akamaru at his heels. "You're on dog breath," Naruto called back. "Come on, Kurama." They took off after their teammates. Hinata laughed as she followed them as they raced to the dinner that Itachi-sensei had taken them when they first met and ordered breakfast. Half an hour after that, they left and made their way to Training Ground 4 to continue their training. Itachi had started them off with some more advanced taijutsu training than what they had been taught at the academy, how to dispel genjutsu, and some chakra exercises such as climbing trees without the use of their hands, and they had recently started water walking. Today, Itachi had told them that they would be learning a few low-rank ninjutsu techniques. "All right," Itachi began when they were all assembled. "In order to properly judge what ninjutsus I should teach you, we need to determine what your nature affinities are." "Nature affinities?" Kiba asked. "Yes, you see, everyone has citron types of nature ninjutsus that work best for them. I myself am a rare mixture of fire and water types of nature affinity." He produced 3 slips of paper and handed one to each of his students. "Channel your chakra into these slips of paper and we'll figure out just what you kids are." Everyone nodded and channeled their chakra into the paper. Both Naruto and Hinata split in two, but one of Naruto's has ignited and turned to ash, while one of Hinata's has crumpled up. Kiba's, meanwhile, seemed to turn into mud. Interesting, Naruto and Hinata both have wind affinities, but Naruto, you have fire as well while you Hinata have lightning. Kiba, you have both earth and water affinities, same as the first Hokage did. Who knows, maybe you could someday call upon the power of wood like the first did. The same power as the first Hokage, Kiba whispered. In awe, Naruto was thinking about his own power. The fire affinity must come from being a rider, while the wind must come from him naturally. All right, now I'm going to teach you all some pretty basic jutsus that will go along with your newly discovered powers. Itachi said, "This is the main reason I became a sensei, so that I could just the techniques that I leaned from my Sharingan to pass on to the next generation." He started by teaching Kiba the hidden mist technique, which would create a thick mist that would allow Kiba to sneak up on his opponents, and the double suicide decapitation technique, which would allow him to bury an opponent up to their neck in the ground. He next taught Naruto Great Breakthrough, which would allow him to summon a giant gust of wind, and the giant fireball technique, which would allow him to summon a giant fireball, and was also an Uchiha family signature jutsu, which caused Naruto to be greatly honored to lead the move. Finally, he taught Hinata the violent wind palm, which would allow her to send out a concentrated gust of wind, but he couldn't teach her any lightning jutsus because he didn't know any that she could handle. "That's all right, Itachi-sensei," Hinata had told him. "I still need to work on my own gentle fist style." Their training continued for about another week in between the Kanational D-rank mission, helping the elderly with their groceries, catching someone's lost pet, usually a cat named Tora, and on a few occasions to entertain at a kid's birthday party, to which they seemed to be big hits with Hinata doing magic tricks. Cheating with her Byakugan, and Kiba and Akamaru were doing various tricks, which would sometimes include Naruto and Kurama. Most of the parents, however, had been cold towards Naruto at first, which caused him to back away. That was when he had noticed a Konohamaru standing off on his own, apparently trying to focus chakra. "You're going to make your head explode doing that," Naruto said, leaning against a wall. "And why are you here trying to call up your chakra anyway? I mean, you're just a kid. There'll be plenty of time for ninja training when you get to the academy." "Hey, don't talk like that to me. I'm the grandson of the third Hokage," Konohamaru snapped. "All right, Konohamaru, I'll make you a deal," Naruto said. "If you live it up, have some fun at this party, and just try and be a normal kid in general, and I promise you I will bust but to make Jonin so I can be your sensei when you become a Jonin." "You promise?" Konohamaru asked. "You have my word as a ninja," Naruto said. Konohamaru nodded and held his hand out to Naruto, who took it, shook it, and pulled the boy into a headlock and began to noogie the boy. "What are you doing to him?" a parent snapped. Naruto and Konohamaru looked up at her. "What's your problem, lady?" Konohamaru asked. "Konohamaru, remember our deal? Head out there and play all right," Naruto said, standing up and patting the boy on the back. "You got it, Naruto-sensei," Konohamaru said, running back into the group of kids. Naruto, meanwhile, stood up and looked at the woman. You know, it's funny, Naruto said, looking up at the woman. The fourth wanted me to be seen as a hero, you know. Since I was pretty much the human sacrifice so that damn demon fox would destroy this village, but all you bastards see is the fucking monster I've got inside of me. No offense, Fox. None taken, kid, the fox said. It was wanting to lash and destroy this bitch of a villager and many of the other ones that had wronged Naruto over the years. And I'm not even getting into all the shit you've been giving me and my mom. Naruto continued. That demon whore should be put to death just for giving birth to you. The woman growled. Naruto had her pinned to the wall in a second, one sigh embedded into the wall, not millimeters away from her head, and his other one was just as close to her eyeball. You can say or do whatever you want to do to me, Naruto hissed at her, just loud enough to hear. But if you ever insult my mother, I'll cut out your tongue, and I swear by all that is holy and unholy that if you ever hurt her or send someone after her, they'll be dead before sunrise or worse. Naruto withdrew his sayas, spun them around his fingers, and slid them back into his belt. He rejoined the party as if nothing had happened at all. That is until that same woman came shrieking at him with a knife in her hand. Die, demon brat, she screamed. Naruto-sensei, Konohamaru shouted, running up and knocking the woman's feet away with a slide. While she was in midair, Hinata shot forward and struck her arms, making them useless while Kiba jumped up and kicked her in the face, knocking her out. You all right, Naruto-sensei? Yeah, I'm fine, Naruto said, rubbing the boy's head. But you know you don't have to call me sensei yet, right? Yeah, what's that about? Kiba asked with Akamaru yipping. Look, I just told the kid that if he would be a kid for a while, I'd bust but to be his Jonin sensei when he reached Genin. Naruto said with a shrug. Oh, that's sweet, Naruto, Hinata said. Yeah, but keep it down, Hinata. I do have a rep I got to keep, he replied with a smile. Naruto, Kurama said. Naruto turned to his partner, who was looking at a group of parents that were glaring daggers at Naruto. You all want to kill me, don't you? Naruto stated in deadpan. Many of them glared at Naruto, but stopped when they saw Konohamaru standing in front of them ready to fight. If you want my sensei, you'll have to go through me, Konohamaru said. Naruto smiled as he placed a hand on his future student's shoulder. Thank you, Konohamaru, but this is my battle. I'll have to fight it, he said before stepping in front of Konohamaru. Then if you allow me to follow your example in protecting students, Naruto, Itachi said, standing in front of Naruto. You defend that demon? Someone demanded. I defend my student, Itachi said. And we protect our teammate, Kiba said, cracking his knuckles with Akamaru growling by his partner's side. We protect our friend, Hinata added, her Byakugan active. The air was tense as the two sides squared off. Then, the kids started to walk forward and stand side by side with Konohamaru. The adults were all stunned to see their children siding against them and with the demon. You can go ahead and get out of here, Naruto-sensei. We'll take care of things here, Konohamaru said. You sure, Konohamaru? Naruto asked. The boy looked back at Naruto with a smile on his face. Yeah, trust me, sensei, the grandson of the third said. Naruto nodded and glanced at his teammates and sensei before they jumped away. You sure they'll be okay, Naruto? Kiba asked. Yeah, their problem is with me, or the fox to be more accurate, not those kids, Naruto said. If we're lucky, they'll just be calling for my death a bit more than usual. As if on cue, a team of ENBU appeared before the team. Naruto Uzumaki, you have been summoned to stand before the civilian and ninja councils, one of them said. Naruto sighed. All right, Naruto said. I'll catch up with you guys tomorrow after I get those damn councils off my back again. Naruto turned to leave, but was stopped when Hinata put a hand on his shoulder. You're going to need someone to watch you back there, bro, Kiba said. Akamaru jumped off of Kiba's shoulder and onto the opposite shoulder that Kurama was on. We're coming with you, Hinata said, and her tone said that there was no argument on the subject. With a nod to his sensei and to the ANBU, Team 8 shot off. When they reached the council room, several people on both councils stood up and started shouting about why the heirs to the Hyuga and Inuzuka families were standing with Naruto. My daughter is a ninja and more than capable of making her own choices, Hishin said. As is my son, Sum said, both parents trying to keep the pride out of their voices. Now, can we please get on with this ridicules and, in my opinion, unneeded meeting, said Mikoto Uchiha. I'm sure my son's team has more important things to do than deal with all of this. Very well, Naruto, the Hokage said. I assume that because your teammates are here they know of your tenet. Yeah, old man, they know, Naruto said. You will not address the Hokage like that. Someone on the ninja council snapped, but Naruto ignored it. Is my mom going to be here for this? Naruto asked. No. Since you are a ninja now, Naruto, your mother will only be here if you wish her to be. The Hokage explained. All right. Well, like Lady Uchiha said, let's get this over with. Kiba said with a yawn. And before any of you say anything, we're here as emotional support for Naruto, so just shut up. The Hokage cleared his throat, trying to cover up a chuckle. Very well then, he said. Naruto, it appears that you have threatened someone from this village. Yeah, about that. Nice job with getting someone to see me about that. Record time, Naruto said. Here's the deal. While I admit I did threaten to rip out that lady's tongue and do worse things if they were to send someone after me and my mother, I only did it because she insulted and threatened my mom. Lies, a civilian councilman shouted. If you don't believe me, ask the Hokage's grandson. He was there when everything went down. Naruto said. Which reminds me, old man. Any idea if I'll be able to make Jonin by the time Konohamaru makes Jonin? I told him I'd be his sensei when the time came. This caused a whole new uproar amongst the councils. The idea of the Hokage's grandson being the student of the demon brat was enraging. Silence. The Hokage roared, leaking out small killing intent that made many people flinch back. As far as you being my grandson's sensei, Naruto, I can only suggest that you train hard for the next 3 years, and maybe you will be Konohamaru's sensei. And as to the charges against you, you are being honest that the woman threatened you and your mother. Yeah, old man, Naruto confirmed. Very well then, you are free to go, and I apologize on behalf of the councils. The Hokage said. No problem, old man, Naruto said, giving the man a 2-fingered salute. And tell Konohamaru that if he doesn't act like a kid, I'll make sure Kiba's his sensei. Kiba glared at his friend and took a swing at him, which Naruto ducked with a smirk on his face. Hinata stepped between her teammates. Boys, no fighting, she said, looking back and forth between them. Yes, Hinata, they said in unison. Many of the parents who knew those kids chuckled. A few of the men made whip sounds. Are you really going to let that boy just walk away? Danzo asked as the team walked out of the room. He has done nothing wrong, Danzo, Sarutobi said. And if you bring up putting him in your root program, I'll have Inochi make you thinking you're 5-year-old girl for the rest of your life. You wouldn't dare, Danzo growled. The old Hokage glanced over at the Yamanaka head who was rubbing his hands together. I'll let Ino braid your hair, he said with a wicked grin. Sarutobi chuckled as the councils dispersed. You're going to become a great ninja someday, Naruto, the Hokage thought, just like your father was. Journey to the land of waves. Naruto and Kiba skidded back from each other. Kiba's hands became a blur as he went through a series of hand signs. Water style, hidden mist jutsu, he cried. A thick mist quickly enveloped their battlefield. Naruto tensed and looked around. Teaching Kiba that jutsu had been a good choice. With his enhanced sense of smell, Kiba could easily track his opponents through the mist. Suddenly, Naruto felt a hand wrap around his ankle and pull. Earth style, double suicide decapitation jutsu. As the mist cleared, Naruto found himself up to his neck in the ground and Kiba standing over. Looks like I win, Naruto, Kiba said with a smirk that faded when he saw Naruto's own. Wanna bet, Kiba? He said before he disappeared in a puff of smoke. Damn, shadow clone. Kiba swore as he started his hand signs for the hidden mist jutsu again, except a flurry of shuriken came flying at him. He dodged to the side towards Naruto and a clone, each going through their own hand signs. Wind style, giant breakthrough, cried one while the other shouted. Fire style, giant fireball jutsu. The two jutsus merged together to create a giant wave of fire that threatened to completely and totally incinerate Kiba. Wind style, violent wind palm. Came Hinata's voice as a pair of wind streams shot forward and split the inferno away from the boy. Naruto, that was too much, she scolded as she walked forward, Kurama and Akamaru by her side. The boy chuckled and rubbed that back of his head. Yeah, it might have been a bit much, he admitted, sticking his hand out. Sorry, Kiba. Hey, it's not like the enemy's going to hold back on us, and should be prepared to cut loose on them, Kiba said as Naruto helped him up. Indeed, And that was a nice use of combining your jutsus, boys. Itachi said, walking forward. I am very impressed by both of you. Thanks, Itachi-sensei. Kiba and Naruto said. Come on, I'm going to ask the Hokage to give this team a C-rank mission. I'd say you're ready for it. Itachi said, turning around to hide his smile. Team 8 followed their sensei, smiling. So what do you think the mission would be? Kiba asked. Personally, I want it to be something outside the village. Naruto said. As long as it's away from Kyuubi, Hinata added. Even though she had pretty much gotten over the attack, she still wanted to keep as much distance from that place as possible. The old man wouldn't do that to you, Hinata. Naruto said, placing a hand on the girl's shoulder. Because if he did, I'd kick his old shriveled ass. You mean we would kick his old shriveled ass? Kiba said. Hinata giggled and hugged her teammates. Thanks, guys, you're too good to me, she said, giving each of them a kiss on the cheek. I'm not going to have to make sure the three of you aren't sleeping together, am I? Itachi asked, glancing over his shoulder. All three ninjas went red and shot glares at their smirking sensei. Secretly unknown to the Uchiha, however, was that all three of them did have crushes on one of their teammates. Kiba and Naruto were obviously crushing on Hinata, while Hinata herself had strong feelings for Naruto. He was her first friend, the first one to have really break through the barriers she'd put up after the attack, not to mention having saved her. When they arrived at the mission center, they found Team 7 there, as well with Tora and his owner. Cat got loose again? Itachi asked Kakashi, who had his masked nose buried in that orange book of his. Yep, your team still holds the record, by the way, Kakashi said, not looking up from his book. How have you been, Shino? Naruto asked, raising his hand to the young man who shook it. It's been well enough, Shino said, although these two have been holding things back. What did you say? Sasuke growled. Because of your greed to get more power and Sakura's obsession with you, most of our missions are more difficult and take longer than they should, Shino said logically. Sasuke growled and lunged forward only to have Shino turn into bugs and disappear. Sasuke froze when he felt a kuni at his throat. I would greatly advise against ever doing that again, Shino said before withdrawing the dagger. Geez, fighting amongst their own team, Kiba muttered. I know. I heard Kakashi never really passed a team. I wonder why he made an exception. Hinata said. Betcha at 20 it's got to do with Uchiha. Naruto whispered. Now then, Itachi, what can I do for you? The Hokage asked. Lord Hokage, I would like to request a C-rank mission for my team, Itachi said. They have successfully completed the necessary D-rank missions, and I have complete confidence in them. The Hokage stroked his beard and took a puff on his pipe. Very well, the Hokage said. I think I know of a mission for you. What? Why should they get a higher-ranked mission? Sasuke demanded. Itachi sighed and shook his head in shame, upset that his little brother could be so arrogant just because of his clan name. Were all the Uchihas like this? Hinata whispered. I'm the black sheep of the family, Itachi whispered back. Thank goodness. Naruto and Kiba said in unison, their partners nodding. Very well, since it is a C-rank mission, it will be made a joint mission between teams 7 and 8. The Hokage declared. Sasuke smirked at Team 8, while Kiba rolled his eyes and Naruto was subtly flipping him off. Send in the client. A man with a pot belly, stubble, and a drinking bottle in hand. These are the kids who are supposed to watch over me, the old man asked. He looked at both sides. Well, these ones over here don't look so bad, he glanced at Team 8. But apart from the guy with the glasses, those other ones look pretty pathetic. This time, it was Kiba and Naruto's turns to smirk at the Uchiha before turning to their client. And just who are you? Sasuke demanded. I am Tizuna, Master Bridge Builder, the man stated. Your mission is to protect me as I return to my village and while I complete my masterpiece. Sounds like fun, Naruto said with a grin. When do we leave? We'll meet at the west gates in 1 hour, Itachi explained. Don't be late. His eyes shot towards Kakashi. The teams all departed and left the office. Hey mom, I'm going to be out of the village for a while, Naruto announced when he returned home. Long-term mission? Kushina asked, poking her head out of the kitchen. Yeah, heading to the land of waves to watch over a bridge builder, Naruto said as he went to pack up his thing. Get this too, we're going with Team 7. Sasuke Uchiha's team? Kushina asked. Yep, him and Sakura Haruno, everyone's favorite banshee, Naruto added. Kushina couldn't help but chuckle at the remark. Still though, it'll be pretty nice working with Shino. It'll be nice getting out of the village for a bit, Kurama added. Naruto smiled and nodded. After he finished packing, they turned around and find his mom holding something in her hands. What's that, Mom? Naruto asked. It's something that belonged to your father, Kushina said. Naruto took the box from his mother. Opening it up the box, his eyes widened, and he looked up at his mom, who nodded. Naruto picked up the three-pronged kuni dagger with a seal on the handle. D-Dad mentioned this, the source of his signature jutsu, the Flying Thunder God. He looked at his mom again. I don't know if you're ready for the Flying Thunder God just yet, Kushina said, but I think you should carry these with you, for luck. Naruto was speechless. Kushina just smiled and kissed her son on the forehead. Be careful out there, Naruto, and take care of yourself and your team, Kushina said with a smile. Naruto smiled and nodded, putting the kuni in his bag. Hugging his mom, he and Kurama jumped out the window and took off. He landed at the gate at the same time as the rest of his teammates. So, you guys ready for this? Naruto asked. Oh yeah, I've been wanting to get out of this village for a while, ever since I became a Jonin, Kiba said. Yeah, I think getting out of here would be nice. Hinata agreed, tossing a couple of treats to Akamaru and Kurama, who barked happily and jumped up into the girl's arms. You certainly seem to be this squad's captain, Shino said, appearing from nowhere and making Naruto and Kiba jump. Geez, Shino, give us a couple of heart attacks, why don't you? Kiba snapped. Akamaru jumped down from Hinata's arms and barked at the bug ninja. Take it easy, Kiba, Naruto said, trying to calm his nerve. A ninja needs stealth, remember. So what do you think of our mission, Shino? Hinata asked. I think that the client knows more than he's telling, Shino said. You got that feeling too, huh? Naruto said. They all waited, and then their teammates and client walked towards them. Ready to go? Itachi asked when he reached his team. Born ready, Itachi-sensei, Naruto said with thumbs up and a smile. Together, they all walked out of the village. Team 7 was bunched up around Tazuna, but Team 8 was in more of a formation. Kiba and Akamaru were up front, using their senses of smell to watch out for any dangers. Hinata was in the middle. The gentle fist style she'd been perfecting was focused on defense, and her Byakugan would be useful if Kiba found anything, and Naruto was bringing up the rear, ready to attack in case the shit hit the fan. A few miles out after leaving the village, Kiba stopped and held his hand up. What is it, Mutt? Sasuke demanded. I've got 2 cents up ahead. Both of them smell like they could be upper Chunin, lower Jonin level, Kiba reported. Hinata activated her Byakugan and nodded. It looks like they're using some kind of genjutsu to disguise themselves as a puddle, Hinata said, looking back at Naruto. The boy stroked his chin and glanced at Itachi, who just smiled and gestured to Naruto. Weapons? Naruto asked. Hinata looked again. They're each wearing a claw connected by a chain, she said. What are you all talking about? Sasuke demanded. It's called a battle plan, Sasuke, Naruto said. We go out there half-cocked, it's a good way to get both our teams and our client killed. Why would they come after me? Tazuna said, starting to sweat. The only ninja they'd be interested in would be myself and Kakashi, and they'd also send stronger ninja than the ones they've apparently sent, Itachi said. Our students aren't enough to be blips on the radar. No offense. None taken, Naruto commented. Hey Sasuke, how good are you with shuriken and kuni? The Uchiha glared at him. All right, here's the plan. N/FR. The group of 9 continued moving ahead, passing a puddle that shouldn't have been there because it hadn't rained for the past week. After they passed, 2 ninja rose out of it and flew forward, wrapping their chain around Kakashi and Itachi. Now Sasuke, Naruto shouted. The youngest Uchiha wheeled around and threw a shuriken at the chain, sending it flying into a tree trunk and then pinning it in place with a kuni. Kiba Hinata, hit him hard, Naruto roared. Gentle fist style, Hinata shouted, charging forward and bombarding one of the ninjas with her chakra-charged palms. Fong over Fong, Kiba declared him and Akamaru spinning around and around each other before slamming into the other ninja. The 2 enemies fell to the ground. When they looked up, they saw Naruto spinning one of his seiyus around his finger and Shino with his hands in his pockets. All right, the 2 of you are going to tell me who sent you and who your target is, Naruto said, or else you'll die in the slowest and most painful way we currently have at our disposal. Huh? One of the ninjas laughed. You don't have nearly enough of what it takes to make the demon brothers talk. Oh, so you're brothers, Naruto said, clutching the sai and turning to Shino. Have your bugs eat that one, he said, pointing to the brother who hadn't spoken up. Shino nodded and held his hand out to the ninja. His insects flew out in a black swarm and engulfed the ninja. The air was filled with his cries of pain as Shino's insects began to devour the man's chakra. When they were done, all that was left was a lifeless husk. Now, if you don't tell us what we want to know, I'm going to have my friend here do that to you, but much, much more slowly. We were hired by the shipping merchant Gato to kill Tazuna, so he couldn't complete his bridge. The remaining demon brother said, My brother and I worked under Mamuchi Zabuza, the demon of the hidden mist village. I see, Naruto said, kneeling down and placing a hand on the ninja's shoulder. Thank you for telling us this. Now I have good news, and I have bad news. The bad news is, I'm going to have to kill you. So what's the good? The demon brother started, but was cut off as Naruto jabbed his sai into the back of the man's neck, killing him. I'll make it quick, Naruto whispered to the core, pulling his blade out and flicking the blood off. He stood up shakily, taking deep breaths before walking away. You okay? Shino asked. I'll be all right. First one's always the hardest, right? Naruto said with a shaky smile, to with the bug ninja just nodded. He walked back to his team. Kiba, no point in letting those nice claws go to waste. Why don't you use them? They seem your style. Kiba nodded and removed the claws before sliding them on. Nice fit, he commented, flexing the claws. Why should he get them and not Sasuke? Sakura demanded. And what's more, Naruto, you and Shino just killed those two. Like I said, Haruno, they're Kiba's style of weapons. Naruto said, rounding on her, his eyes blazing in anger. And grow up. When you're a ninja, death is part of the job. If you've got a queasy stomach, then find a new line of work. He turned around to lean against a nearby tree, taking deep breaths. He felt Hinata rub his back. Are you all right? She asked. Yeah, not as bad as the penance stare, but it still gets you. Naruto said. I hope an angel like you never has to experience. Hinata blushed a little, and Naruto gave a nervous chuckle. I just said that out loud, didn't I? Yeah, you did, Kurama said with a chuckle. Come on, you two. Let's get back on the move. Itachi called as the group set off again for the land of the waves. Mamuchi Zabuza, round 1. So, I suppose the question is, do we keep going now that this is an A-ranked mission? Kakashi said. It's no question, Naruto said, cracking his knuckles. We took on a job, and now we're following it through. Kiba and Hinata nodded. It would appear that my team isn't planning on leaving. Itachi said. What about you guys? I'm staying. We took on a job, and I plan on finishing it. Shino said in his usual deadpan voice, echoing Naruto. I'm not backing away from this. Sasuke said simply. I'm staying. Sakura said. Guess my team's in too. Kakashi said. I just have one question. Hinata said, turning to Tazuna. Why didn't you tell people about what was really going on in your village when you asked for our ninja services? My village is a poor one. We had very little money even before Gato sunk his fangs into it. Tazuna explained as they reached a river where a boat was waiting. I've heard of Gato and what he does. Itachi said. He finds some small village, breaks its spirit, and then sucks it dry till there's nothing left, then goes on to the next village. He's a parasite. No need to be so polite. Tazuna spat. He's nothing but a worthless leech who causes nothing but death and destruction. Kiba growled as everyone climbed into the boat. Itachi-sensei, do I have permission to tear out this bastard's insides if I see him? He asked, flexing his new claws. Normally, Kiba, I would say no, but if you're lucky enough to get your hands on him, feel free. Itachi said, his Sharingan flashing before he was able to control himself. Take a number and get in line. Naruto muttered, fingering his sais. Everyone was silent as they completed the ride across the lake. Hey Hinata, would you mind taking a look at these gauntlets? My chakra feels kind of weird. Kiba requested. Hinata nodded and looked at them with her Byakugan. It looks like they have their own chakra network, and it's connecting to your own. Hinata said. They must be made out of some kind of chakra metal, Itachi surmised. One that can amplify your own. Judging by the seals around the arms, I'd say they specialize in manipulating nature-based chakra. Naruto said, glancing at the seals. Several people glanced at Naruto with raised eyebrows. What? My dad left a bunch of scrolls about sealing around before he died. I skimmed through a few of them in my spare time back home. Naruto's right, Kakashi said, glancing at the seals. With you being an earth and water type, with these gauntlets, you may be able to use techniques of both the first and second Hokages. That's going to take a shitload of chakra, Naruto commented. Sounds like fun, Kiba said. Naruto smiled, but when he saw the look on Sasuke's face, the smile immediately disappeared. If you even think of taking those gauntlets, Sasuke, Naruto started but froze. What? The Uchiha challenged, only for Naruto to raise his hand. Hinata, Kiba, I don't think we're alone here. Hinata and Kiba nodded and engaged their tracking skills, Shino slowly following suit. I've got 2 unknown chakra signatures, Hinata said. One of them smells like he's around Jonin level while the other one, I don't know, maybe stronger, maybe close to ENBU level. I can't tell anything about the ENBU level, but the other one carries a giant sword, Shino reported. Giant sword? Kakashi asked. Itachi's head whipped around behind him as the sound of a blade spinning filled the air. Hit the deck, he shouted, pulling Tazuna to the ground while the teams ducked. The giant sword that Shino had been talking about whizzed above their heads and embedded itself into a tree. Some pretty good trackers you Konoha ninjas are, said the man who appeared from the air, standing on the sword's hilt. You know this guy Kakashi? Itachi asked. Mamuchi Zabuza, formerly of the village hidden in the mist, and one of the 7 swordsmen of the mist, the Mizukige's personal bodyguards. Kakashi explained. After the swordsmen disbanded, Zabuza left the village after trying, and failing, to kill the Mizukige. I see, Itachi said. Naruto, Hinata, Kiba, stay back and protect Tazuna. Itachi reported. Believe me, this guy's not like the others, he's way out of your league. Sasuke, Sakura, Shino, you 3 do the same. Kakashi reported, his hand reaching for his headband. Bringing it out already, Kakashi? Zabuza taunted. I know all about you, Kakashi, the copy ninja. I know of you as well, Itachi Uchiha, prodigy of the Uchiha clan and one of the few surviving males. You're well informed, Kakashi said, raising his headband to reveal a Sharingan eye. I had the usual bingo book back in my ninja days, Zabuza said, his hands flashing through seals that Kiba in particular recognized. Hidden in the mist jutsu, he whispered. Sasuke was trembling with fear at the thought of nearly getting killed. Snap out of it, Uchiha, and get your head in the game. Naruto snapped. Our senseis told us to cover Tazuna, and that's what we're going to do, damn it. Hinata, 12 o'clock, Sakura 2 o'clock, I'll take 4 o'clock, Kiba 6 o'clock, Sasuke 8 o'clock, Shino 10 o'clock. Let's move it, people. The 6 Jonin jumped into position and took up their positions. A most impressive bunch you 2 have there, Zabuza admitted as he disappeared into the mist. But not good enough. He suddenly appeared amongst the group of ninja, one hand on the hilt of his sword. A second later, Zabuza found a sai buried into his brainstem, a claw in his stomach, and a chakra-charged palm slammed into his face. We understand your intentions to gain intel on your enemies, Zabuza, Hinata said. But we didn't come here to play with water clones, Kiba added. So how about you show us what you've really got? Naruto finished as he and Kiba pulled out their weapons as Zabuza turned into a puddle of water. Okay, now I'm really impressed, I admit. Zabuza said. Which one of these 2 is your sensei? That would be me, Itachi said, trying to keep the pride in his voice. Not bad, Itachi, Zabuza said. You've taught them well. Thanks, Itachi said. Now I think my students said what we all are thinking. Let's see what you've got. Itachi engaged his own Sharingan, and the fight began. At first, the fight was one-sided. Zabuza may have been a swordsman of legendary reputation, but going up against 2 ninjas equipped with 3 fully developed Sharingan eyes was clearly a handful for him. But Zabuza lived up to his reputation by knocking the 2 ninja into the nearby lake and imprisoning them with water prison jutsus. All of you, take Tazuna and run. This fight's over. You can't beat him, Kakashi shouted, looking to Itachi for help. The Uchiha prodigy, however, had something completely different to say. Naruto, you're in charge, he said. Naruto nodded and turned to look at Zabuza, who was using both his hands to hold the Jonin senseis. With Zabuza stuck there holding Kakashi and Itachi sensei, he can't do anything but sick water clones on us, Naruto said, rubbing his chin. And then there's his partner who's still out there. Hinata, take Sasuke and find this partner of his. Between your eyes and his skill, you should be able to take him. Sakura, Shino, you 2 stay here and watch the old man. Hey, Tazuna snapped. Kiba, you're with me. Let's give those gauntlets of your a test run. Naruto said. What makes? Sasuke started. Didn't you hear your brother Sasuke? Naruto snapped. I'm in charge. Now shut up and do your job before I take you out myself. Hinata nodded and jumped into the trees. Byakugan activated. Reluctantly, Sasuke followed. Kiba, bring up some more mist. Naruto ordered as he and Kiba walked towards the lake. What for Naruto? And why are we going after Zabuza anyway? Kiba asked. Itachi-sensei said he was out of our league. Zabuza is out of our league, Naruto admitted, but not the riders. Kiba's eyes widened and nodded in understanding as he proceeded to use the jutsu. Once they were blocked from view, Naruto unleashed a seal on his arm, freeing his bladed chain as he burst into flames, Kurama at his side doing the same and sprouting extra tails. You're sure you want me watching your back in this? Kiba asked, glancing at the burning skeleton that was his best friend. Something like this. I can only think of a few others I would truly trust in a fight, the rider said. Kiba nodded and quickly went through a few hand seals, making Akamaru a beast-like clone of himself and turning himself more beast-like. When they reached the edge of the lake, all eyes widened in shock, epically Itachi's. What's this, some kind of jinjutsu? Zabuza asked, trying to sound impassive. This is the face of judgment Mamuchi Zabuza, judgment for your sins. The rider growled. Zabuza's eye twitched as his eyes flashed to Kiba. Those are the Demon Brothers' gauntlets. I highly doubt that you've had the time to learn how to use them properly, he said. I've always been a learn-on-the-job kind of guy. Kiba growled. All of a sudden, a series of water clones rose up from the water, each brandishing their own giant sword. I thought I said that we aren't here to play with water clones. The rider growled, cracking his chain like a whip. Leave these things to us, partner. Kiba growled. You sure? Naruto asked. Kiba grinned a feral grin. Oh yeah, he said before charging head first into the mass of Zabuza's. All right then, Naruto said, climbing onto Kurama's back. Let's ride, he said, cracking the flaming reins. The nine-tailed skeleton fox took off, leaving a burning trail in its wake, even as it ran across the water. Zabuza tried to summon more water clones to stop it, but the ones that were close enough were evaporated by the heat of the hellfire, or else slashed by the rider's burning chain. Seeing no alternative, Zabuza dispelled the jutsus and leapt back away from the rider. Itachi and Kakashi let instinct take over and used their chakra to stand atop the water. Is that you, Naruto? Itachi asked. It's a long story, Itachi-sensei, Naruto said. One for another time. He turned to look at Zabuza and pointed his bony finger at the ninja. Mamuchi Zabuza, your soul is stained with the blood of the innocent. No more stained than Kakashi's or your master's, Zabuza argued. Their souls are stained differently than yours, Naruto growled. While they have killed, they killed on orders and to protect those they cared about. While I sense similar staining upon your soul, you hold more darkness in you than them. Naruto lashed out with his chain. Zabuza drew his sword and batted it away. Naruto raised the weapon above his head and lashed out again, this time wrapping the flaming metal around Zabuza's sword and yanking it out of his hand. This is where it ends, Naruto said, as he began to swing the chain over his head. From nowhere, two needles embedded into Zabuza's neck. Indeed it is, said a voice. From the side, a new ninja appeared wearing a mask. Thank you, but if I were to let you kill him, then my mission would have failed. Fair enough, Naruto said. Do what you need to with the body and go. The ninja nodded, grabbed Zabuza's body, and disappeared. Naruto, Itachi said, slowly walking towards his student. Yeah, it's me, Itachi-sensei, Naruto said, as his skin, hair, and eyes slowly grew back while the flames disappeared. Sorry I didn't tell you earlier, I wasn't sure how you'd react. What's he mean by that? Kakashi asked. It was a flaming skeleton that slaughtered my clan before they had a chance to rebel against the village, Itachi explained. And in all honesty, Naruto, you just beat me to it. Itachi-san. Kakashi's eyes widened. While my clan may have been more than willing to betray the Hidden Leaf Village, I am loyal to my home and would have done just about anything to protect it. Naruto and Kakashi nodded and walked back to where Kiba, Sakura, Shino, and Tazuna were waiting. I'm guessing you finished off Zabuza since his water clones went poof, Kiba said, crossing his arms. He's gone, but we didn't take him out, a hunter ninja did, Naruto said. Except that wasn't a hunter ninja, Hinata said, appearing with Sasuke. It was Zabuza's partner. Damn, must be a good kid. I didn't feel any desire to use the stare on him. Naruto whispered. But if that was Zabuza's partner, then why'd he kill him? Sakura asked. Hinata said, it was a girl. And when Hinata and I were fighting her, she was using these. He held up a thin, silver needle. Senbon needles, Itachi said. You hit someone in just the right place with those, and they can go into a death-like trance. Anko somehow convinced me to be her practice dummy for something like that. He rubbed his neck. I still don't know what she did to me while I was apparently dead. Kakashi stared at him before turning back to the students. It will take a while for him to recover after nearly being killed like that, Itachi said. After we get to Tazuna's house, you and I will work on a training schedule, Kakashi. The cycloptic ninja nodded and took the lead with Itachi as the group continued to head towards Tazuna's home. Nice place, Naruto said when they arrived. It's kind of small, but homey. Seems like a pretty good place to raise a family. Thank you, said a young woman with long dark hair. Everyone, this is my daughter, Swami. Tazuna introduced. My grandson, Inari, must be up in his room. Thank you all for bringing my father home safely. Please come in, Tsunami said, standing aside and letting the ninja in. I trust everything went all right. Not exactly, ma'am. We ran into a few ninja, but they were taken care of, Kiba said. Unfortunately, they might be back, Naruto added, crossing his arms and leaning against a wall. And when they come back, we'll be ready for them, Itachi said. In the meantime, though, you kids go and get some rest. We'll start our training tomorrow morning. The kids nodded, and Tsunami pointed them towards the rooms they'd be staying at. Sakura and Hinata were given the beds, and Sasuke demanded his own because he was an Uchiha. Instead of letting Kiba kick his ass, Naruto pulled his friend back, saying he didn't want to cause Tsunami trouble. Damn, I do not know how you put up with that fucking prick Shino, Kiba grumbled. Easy, I just tune him out, Shino replied. Naruto chuckled. He stopped and glanced at a door. What is it? Shino asked. Someone in there's crying, he said, walking over and knocking on the door. Whoever was crying stopped, and for a second later the door opened to show a young boy with a blue and white hat. Are you all right? Naruto knelt down in front of the boy. What's it to you? The boy replied. Why, you little, Kiba started. Easy, Kiba, Naruto said, standing up. Kid's obviously got something on his mind. If he doesn't want to talk about it, that's his choice. Nodding to the kid, he turned to go. Shino soon followed. Kiba, after looking between his retreating friends and the kid before glanced at Akamaru. Any idea what that was about? He asked. The puppy dog shook his head. Later that night, the two teams sat around eating dinner. This is great, Miss Tsunami, Hinata said. Thank you very much, Hinata, Tsunami said with a smile. So what kind of training are we going to be looking at, Itachi-sensei? Naruto asked, lacing his fingers together. Kakashi's team is planning on working on the tree climbing exercise, Itachi began. Kiba snorted into his food, trying to stifle his laughter. You guys are still on that? He asked, arching an eyebrow. What's that supposed to mean? Sasuke asked. I'm pretty sure it means you've got a shitty sensei, Naruto said, shooting a glance at Kakashi. Our team's already trying to get down our specialty ninjutsus. What's Itachi taught you? Sasuke demanded, jumping to his feet. Just some low-level ninjutsus to fit our nature types, Hinata said. I'm wind and lightning, Naruto's fire and wind, and Kiba's water and earth. Kakashi and his team were stunned that each of them were clearly much stronger than their own team. That's enough, you three, Itachi said. I'm going to be working with each of you individually to help you learn more about what you can do. Kiba, I'm going to see if you can't do any more higher-ranking earth and water-type techniques now that you have those gauntlets. Hinata, I think you may be able to create your own ninjutsu. Naruto. Actually, Itachi-sensei, I've got a few things I've been wanting to try on my own, if that's okay, Naruto said. Itachi looked at Naruto before nodding. Very well, just keep me updated on your progress. I don't want to lose track of how strong you're getting. Itachi said. That was, I'll still be able to help you should you need it. Naruto nodded. Sasuke's eyes narrowed in rage at what his own brother had taught so much to outsiders of the clan. He was going to have to follow Naruto to figure out just what he was trying to do on his own, and then figure out a way to awaken his own Sharingan so that he could steal it. Mamuchi Zabuza, Round 2. Naruto, Hinata, and Kiba stood in a clearing waiting for Itachi to explain their training. Alright, Kiba, I want you to take a look these jutsus and see what you can do, but if you feel yourself running low on chakra, take a break. We don't need you to literally work yourself to death. Itachi began, handing Kiba a scroll. Hinata, I'm going to help you out with combining your two elemental chakras into creating your own jutsu. Naruto, I actually want to talk to you in private. The Genin nodded and Hinata and Kiba left the clearing to leave the two of them alone. Naruto, how did you become the creature you became? The rider, Naruto said. It's got to do the fox inside me. His father, Mephistopheles, granted me the power of the rider as compensation after my father, the fourth, made the deal. Itachi's eyes widened in shock at the end of Naruto's explanation. Your father was the fourth Hokage and made a deal with the Kyuubi's father, the devil himself? Itachi asked. Yeah, Naruto said. I guess as far as Dad could figure, there was no other way to save the village. Mephistopheles was the one who put Kyuubi inside me and saved my mom from dying after I was born. I see, Itachi said, still stunned by the explanation. So, what powers do you have when you're the rider? You've seen them in action yourself, Itachi-sensei, twice. Naruto said. Unlimited chakra turns Kurama into a nine-tailed skeleton fox, allows me to sense evil in people, and grants me the power to use their sins against them. Interesting, Itachi said, rubbing his chin. So, what kind of training have you been planning for yourself? The first would be finding a way to create darkness no matter where I go, so I can access my rider powers at any time. Naruto explained. Itachi nodded. I would consider looking into the first infinite darkness genjutsu as a basis. Itachi said. If you were to pump more chakra into it, you could probably make it into a darkening ninjutsu. Itachi spent the next few minutes telling Naruto about the first jutsu and the basics of creating a jutsu. After understanding everything, Itachi left to help Hinata and Kiba with their own works. For the rest of the day, Naruto trained in trying to create what he planned on calling his total eclipse jutsu. Just as the sun began to set, he'd finally mastered it, but was only able to hold it for a minute or so. Panting and kneeling on one knee, Naruto couldn't help but smile. Most impressive work, said a voice behind him that sent a chill up his spine and made his blood run cold. Slowly turning, he found himself face to face with an elder man wearing a purple coat and holding a cane with a glass skull on top. Mephistopheles, Naruto whispered, his breath forming in front of him. The devil nodded to the boy. It is nice to finally meet you, Naruto. And, if I may say, you look exactly like your father. Mephistopheles said with a smile. And how's my eldest son doing? Naruto's eyes closed, and when he opened them again, they were no longer sky blue, but blood-red slits. Surprisingly very well, father, the Kyuubi said. This boy is very strong and noble. He would protect those he loves without a second, though. It sounds like you learned the legion I meant for you to learn, Kyuubi. Mephistopheles said. Perhaps it's time for you to come out. Actually, Kyuubi said hesitantly, I have grown rather fond of this boy. I would hope that I could stay with him for a while longer. Mephistopheles blinked. This was not the response he'd expected. He would have thought the old nine-tailed fox would have wanted to get out of that body as quickly as possible. If that is what Naruto wants, then I have no objections. Mephistopheles said, still stunned. Naruto's left eye slowly changed back to blue. I don't mind. Kyuubi has actually become my best friend over the years. He said with a smile. Mephistopheles chuckled. Very well then, but keep in mind, both of you, that if Naruto should die, you will also die, Kyuubi. He warned. Naruto nodded, showing that they both understood. Very well, on to business then. Naruto, you know of Gato, right? Gritting his teeth, Naruto nodded. Well, he is actually a former business associate of mine. You mean he made a deal with you to become the life ruiner that he is? Naruto said, his eyes narrowing with anger. Hey, I'm just a businessman. Someone comes to me with a proposal, and I'll probably take it. Mephistopheles said defensively. In any case, his contract is up and it's time for him to go to hell. You want me to send him there? Naruto asked, cracking his knuckles with a sly grin on his face. Preferably you than either of the other avatars, the ruler of hell said. Avatars? Naruto asked. Another time, for now, a gift from myself and your father, Mephistopheles said, placing a glowing hand on Naruto's head. The blonde's eyes rolled back into his head as he saw flashes of his father performing his signature move, the Flying Thunder God. When Mephistopheles pulled his hand away, Naruto dropped to no knee, panting. What was that? He asked. That was the knowledge of how to perform the flying thunder god. Mephistopheles explained. However, you can only perform it when you're in rider mode because you have better chakra control then. Naruto nodded before looking the king of the underworld straight in the eye. What happened to my dad after we finished our training? He asked. Mephistopheles then did something that was completely out of character for him. He gave the boy a warm smile. He became the new death. He answered. He decides who rises to heaven. Mephistopheles rolled his eyes, or falls to hell. He gave a cold grin. Naruto nodded before looking in the direction of Tezuna's house. I should probably start heading back. He turned back only to find Mephistopheles gone. Shrugging, Naruto turned around and made his way back to the house. When he walked in, he found Sakura clinging to Sasuke, Shino sitting by himself, Itachi, Kiba, and Hinata talking about their training, Akamaru and Kurama, who Naruto left behind during training, wrestling on the floor, and Kakashi had his nose buried in his book. How'd it go? Itachi asked as Naruto walked in. Got the jutsu down, now I just have to work on holding it. Naruto said. I'll be helping all of you all with increasing your chakra reserves tomorrow. Itachi said. Kiba and Hinata are both in similar cases. I've got a few earth and water jutsus going up to B rank. Kiba said. Nearly killed myself in the processes though. And I made my own jutsu. Hinata said. The lightning aura jutsu, good for offense and defense. It's times like these I'm really glad we're on the same team. Naruto said with a laugh. Naruto sat down at the table with a sigh. Lord, I'm beat. I'm crashing right after dinner. Naruto said with a yawn. TCH, you're worn out from just one day of training. Pathetic. Sasuke said. That reminds me, Shino. How'd your team's training go? Hinata asked sweetly. Sakura and I mastered the tree climbing exercise. The bug ninja said. Sasuke, however, wasn't able to do much and is going to have Kakashi help tomorrow. Interesting, Naruto said with a smirk. Well, if you two aren't doing anything tomorrow, I could use some test subjects for my jutsu. Sorry, Naruto, we're guarding Tezuna tomorrow. Shino said. That reminds me, the three of you will start taking shifts when it comes to protecting Tezuna tomorrow. I'll be helping the other two with chakra control. Shifts will for 2 hours and 40 minutes. Itachi said. Kiba, you're up first, and then you Hinata and your last Naruto. You got it, Itachi-sensei. Kiba said. After dinner, when everyone else was asleep, Naruto was sitting on the roof looking up at the stars. Can't sleep, Naruto? Kurama asked, walking out and sitting on his partner's chest. No, something Mephistopheles said when we met, something about avatars. You know anything about that? Naruto asked. Naruto, I'm a fox, Kurama said. I may have Hellfire-enhanced power, but I'm still only a little smarter than the average fox. All right, Naruto said with a chuckle. Sorry for asking. Who knows what the old devil was talking about? Kurama said. So, when are you going to kill this Gato fucker? After we deal with Zabuza, one problem at a time. Naruto said. He and Kurama yawned at the same time. The avatar that father was talking about would be a representative of one of the three kingdoms. Kyuubi said. Being the rider Naruto, you would represent father's kingdom, the kingdom of hell, though I'm not sure who he was talking about when he spoke of the other two avatars. I suppose Kiba could represent the kingdom of man since he posses chakra of the earth and water, and they are amplified by those gauntlets, but I am not sure who represents the kingdom of heaven. Maybe Hinata, Naruto thought out loud before turning red. The two foxes sniggered at the blonde's embarrassment. Let's just get some sleep, he muttered before closing his eyes. NFR. The next day passed uneventful for the most part. Itachi taught his students chakra control by balancing on kunis implanted in the ground. They now had many cuts on their fingers, except for Naruto, who was able to heal almost instantly because of the fox. At the end of the day, when Naruto had seen the condition of Tezuna's village, he had balled his fists so tightly that blood was starting to leak out. I can't believe it can be so bad, Naruto said at the dinner table that night. This guy Gato is practically begging to be killed. Later on that night, the ninjas learned about Inari's surrogate father and about how he was murdered by Gato. After the story, Naruto was doing everything he could to keep his rider power suppressed. Hinata, seeing this, reached over and placed her hand on his. When Naruto looked into her eyes, he felt his flames start to go down. Looking past Hinata, his eyes locked with Kiba's and saw the envy in his eyes and let go of her hand. I'm heading out, Kiba said. Do a little late-night training. Be careful and don't stay out till late. Itachi said. Kiba just raised his hand as he shut the door behind him, Akamaru at his heels. NFR. Kiba and Akamaru didn't come back for 2 days. Hinata would regularly check up on them with her Byakugan to make sure they were still alive. By the third morning, Naruto jumped out of Tazuna's house, using shadow clones to scout out the area. Finally, he found Kiba and Akamaru, and they were talking to a rather pretty girl with pale, almost white skin and long black hair. Okay, I know I'm practically head over heels for Hinata, but she is cute, Naruto muttered. Hey, I'm not going to tell her. She's not even my species and I'm attracted to her. Kurama said. What do you say we get an earful of what they're saying? Naruto grinned mischievously as he jumped down alongside his fox and stealthy behind a tree. So, the girl said, do you have a precious person? Precious person? Kiba asked. Yes, someone who you would fight to protect, and by protecting them, makes you stronger. The girl explained. Kiba was silent for a while. Yeah, I've got my mom, my sister, Akamaru here, Kiba said as the puppy barked in agreement. And there's also my sensei, he paused, and my teammates. Are your teammates important to you? The girl asked. Well, I kind of like the girl on my team, and the other guy is like a brother to me, Kiba started, but I think they might have feelings for each other, and I don't know where I end up there. Naruto winced as he felt a pang of guilt. But even if they get so wrapped up in each other that they forget about me, I'd still lay down my life for them. Well, they're lucky to have such a loyal friend, the girl said, and it sounded like she stood up. Maybe our paths will cross again someday. It sounded like she was walking away. My name's Kiba, by the way. Kiba called. What's yours? Haku. The girl replied before leaving. When she was gone, Naruto came around tree. You okay? He asked. Kiba jumped slightly and spun around to look at Naruto. You were spying on me? Kiba demanded. Just making sure you're all right, Naruto said. We were starting to worry about you. Really? Kiba asked with a raised eyebrow. Well, Hinata, Itachi-sensei, and I are, and I think she knows a little worried too. You never can tell with that guy, Naruto said. Kiba actually gave a small chuckle at that. Kiba, you're like my brother too, and I guess we've both known we've got feelings for Hinata. Yeah, but she doesn't look at me the same way she looks at you, Kiba said. I don't even know if she sees me. She might just see the rider who saved her when she was a kid, Naruto said, running his fingers through his hair. But seriously though, man, come back. Sleeping in a bed's got to be better than sleeping out here. Kiba sighed and glanced at Akamaru. What do you think, buddy? He asked. Akamaru barked at him a few times. Yeah, that sounds good. He turned to Naruto. I'll come back, but what happened out here stays between us. Deal, Naruto said, slinging his arm around his friend's shoulder. So who was the girl? Her name was Haku. She said she was out here picking some herbs for someone precious to her. Kiba said. Think you'll ever see her again? Naruto asked. Who knows, but I hope so, Kiba said. Naruto chuckled at his friend as they made their way back home. NFR. That night, after Kiba had apologized for worrying everyone so much and gotten chewed out by Hinata, everyone was sitting down to dinner, laughing and enjoying themselves. Everyone, that is, except Inari. Why? He asked through gritted teeth. Why do you train so hard when Gato is just going to kill you? Like I'd ever let myself get killed by a weak bastard like that, Kiba said. He's weak, influential, but weak, Naruto said. The reason he has so many goons is because he can't fight for himself, not like you can, kid. Inari, who was about to go on a rant, stopped. You've got great inner strength, kid, the strength of your father. He taught you how to be strong and why to fight. And after my team and I have taken care of Gato, the people of this village are going to be looking for a leader. Sure, they'll look to your grandfather first, but let's face it, the old man's only got another decade or two left in him. Hey, Tazuna snapped, smiling. Actually, I'm trying to be generous, Naruto said, shooting the old man a grin. Seriously though, kid, you've got a lot of strength inside you. You just need to learn how to use it. Inari was staring at Naruto, completely stunned. All the anger and frustration he'd built up over the years, and this guy seemed to have found a way to just shut it all down with a few words. It felt like a burden had been lifted off of him, and then Inari did something that he hadn't done since his father died. He smiled. NFR. The next day, Hinata, Itachi, and Team 7 left with Tazuna for the bridge while Naruto and Kiba still asleep. Shouldn't we wake them up? Sakura asked. They've been working hard these past few days, let them rest, Itachi said. They've earned it. Several hours later, Naruto and Kiba woke up in a storm and started scrambling around to get their stuff together. Geez, how the hell could they let us sleep in like that? Kiba asked. Well, it's the first time in a while you slept in a bed, Naruto said, and I've been pulling a few late-night training sessions myself. So they just let us catch up on our sleep? Kiba asked, and then shrugged. Makes sense, I suppose. He pulled on his coat and flipped up the hood. You ready? Naruto zipped up his own jacket and smiled. Let's ride, Naruto said. The two of them jumped out of room after hurried goodbyes to Inari and Tsunami. As they bound through the trees, Kiba caught a whiff of something and froze. What is it? Naruto asked, stopping. He followed Kiba's gaze, and his eyes widened as he saw a slashed pig and various cut marks heading back to Tezuna's house. What do you think? Kiba asked. I'll send a couple shadow clones up ahead so that they might be able to do something while. Naruto explained. NFR. Inari charged at the two swordsmen who were holding his mother captive. He would be damned if he was going to let anyone take another member of his family away. This kid's a pain, the swordsman with an eye patch grumbled. Then slash him, said his partner in the hoodie. With a sadistic grin, the first man clutched his katana, his partner following suit. Just as they slashed, they found their attacks blocked, one by a large metal gauntlet, the other by a chain made of shuriken. Taking a woman and working for a weakling like Gato is one thing, Naruto said. But attacking a defenseless kid really pisses us off. Kiba finished, pushing the two swordsmen back. Hey Inari, did either of these two deliver the killing blow to your father? Naruto asked. Shaking, Inari pointed to the one in the hoodie. You mind if I take that one, Kiba? Go right ahead, Kiba said. Without another word, the two ninja lunged into action. Ninja art, man-beast jutsu. Kiba shouted, followed by ninja art, beast mimicry. In a puff of smoke, Akamaru turned into a feral version of Kiba with his own gauntlets, while Kiba himself became more furial. The two of them charged forward, crisscrossing over one another. When one thrust his claw forward, the one-eyed samurai blocked it with his blade, just as another leapt forward and racked the metal claws across his face. The swordsman screamed and clutched his scared face, blood leaking from between his fingers. Looks like you just lost your other eye. Kiba growled, a smug sneer on his face. You little bastard, I'm going to cut you to ribbons. The samurai growled. I don't think so. Kiba shot back, nodding to Akamaru. Both of them went through a series of hand signs. Water style, water dragon jutsu. Earth style, mud dragon bullet jutsu. He shouted. From the earth behind him, a dragon's head appeared and started firing off large spheres of mud, and a dragon made of water sprang up from the lake. Both collided into the man and knocked him back. Satisfied, Akamaru poofed back into his normal form, and Kiba changed back to normal. Ugh, the swordsman groaned. Still breathing. I'm honestly impressed. Although I haven't fully mastered those jutsus, you should at least be out cold. Kiba said. Well, I'm happy to say that you're going to be the test subject for my first original jutsu. He went through a series of hand seals. Water style, water snake assassination jutsu. A puddle of water suddenly sprang up and lunged at the samurai, piercing his eye patch and swarming through his head. The man yelled and clutched his head before he fell silent, and blood and water started leaking out of the eye patch. Meanwhile, Naruto and the hoodie samurai were circling each other. You really think you'll be able to beat me with that fancy chain, kid? The man taunted. Naruto didn't say anything. He just snapped the chain like a whip before wrapping it around his body. I'm about to show you one of my favorite new jutsus and my own original taijutsu style, so pay attention. Naruto said, forming the necessary hand seals. Ninja art, body chain jutsu. The chain seemed to come to life and apparently merged with Naruto's own body. Leaping skyward, the chain sprouted from Naruto's foot as he started to come down. Body chain style, saw foot jutsu. The samurai tried to counter by slashing Naruto, but the blonde landed in the blade and rode it down and slashed his shoulder. That was for Inari, Naruto growled, placing the chainsaw behind the samurai's head. And this is for his father. He sung his other foot forward and dug the blades through the man's neck, cutting his head off in a bloody, brutal fashion. Burn in hell, you son of a bitch. He spat. Brutal, Kiba commented, looking at Naruto's kill. So was yours, Naruto said. Fuck. What is it? Kiba asked. Kakashi and Itachi-sensei are fighting Zabuza, and he found a way to beat the Sharingan. His partner is currently turning Hinata, Shino, and Sasuke into human pincushions, Naruto said. Then let's go, Kiba said. You got everything okay here, Inari? Naruto asked. The boy grabbed the one samurai's sword and nodded. Let's ride. NFR. Kakashi and Itachi stood back to back. Zabuza's mist had made it impossible for them to use their Sharingan on him. I would have never thought the Sharingan could be defeated, Kakashi muttered. You're as arrogant as any Uchiha if you think that, Kakashi. Itachi hissed. Everything has a weakness. It's just a matter of finding it. Interestingly put from an Uchiha himself, Itachi. Zabuza said. What can I say? I'm the only Uchiha with any real brains. Itachi said. That much though, Zabuza said. Itachi's eyes snapped open. Tazuna. Sakura, he shouted. When he heard the sound of clanging metal, he broke through the mist to find Naruto standing in front of Zabuza and Sakura and Tazuna, his sais blocking the Zabuza's giant blade. Hey there, no brows, miss me? Naruto said with a smirk before glancing back at Tazuna and Sakura. You guys might want to take a few steps back. The two of them tentatively took a few steps back before the sounds of fire style, fireball jutsu, wind style, great breakthrough. From the side, a giant blast of fire came flying the wide-eyed Zabuza and the still smirking Naruto. Zabuza managed to get out of the way just as Naruto poofed into smoke. Damn, he moved. Naruto commented walking up to them, spinning his sais on his fingers. Naruto, Itachi called, where's Kiba? Before Naruto could answer, Kiba's cry of Fong over Fong filled the air. He's in the ice dome, Naruto said bluntly. Kiba skidded to a stop and looked up at Hinata, Shino, and Sasuke. Come on guys, let's get, Kiba started, but looked back to see the ice wall he crashed through reform itself. Motherfucker, he growled, spinning around to stand back to back with the others. Okay, what are we up against? She's attacking us from all angles using these mirrors, Sasuke said. I can't melt them with my fire jutsu. They're full of chakra, and that's what makes them so near indestructible, Hinata reported. I tried finding her with a female bug, but it appears that they are everywhere, Shino said. So she's pumping her chakra into the mirrors and somehow using them to be everywhere at the same time, Kiba summarized. Fuck, that's one hell of a jutsu. Outside the jutsu, Naruto and the senseis were standing back to back. All right, so how are we going to beat this guy when we can't see him? Itachi asked. Follow your nose, Naruto and Kakashi said with a pair of smirks. Kurama, you know where he is? Working on it, boss man, Kurama replied. A moment later, Zabuza gave a grunt. Get off of me, you little red rat, he muttered in the mist. With a smirk, Naruto took off at the sound, sais drawn. He's not a rat, you no-brow freak, Naruto said, bursting out of the mist. He's a fox. He lunged forward trying to strike. What makes you think that you can take me on your own, you little genin? Zabuza demanded. In all honesty, I'm not here to beat you, just to clear the mist. Naruto smirked. Zabuza's eyes widened as he realized that he'd lost focus on his jutsu, and the mist was beginning to clear. Good job, Naruto. Now stand down, Kakashi called. Jumping back, Naruto saw Kakashi running by him with a ball of lightning in his hand. This is my own original jutsu, Lightning Blade. Zabuza snapped his sword up and used it as a shield. Zabuza found himself being pushed back by the force of the jutsu. Amaterasu, Itachi's voice called out. Zabuza screamed as black flames covered his arms, causing him to loose his grip on his sword. Inside the dome, Kiba and the others were covered in Senbon needles. Sasuke's Sharingan eyes had awakened, but they hadn't helped them much. Hinata, Shino, Sasuke, I'm going to try and make an opening. If you see the chance to attack or get away, take it, Kiba said. Akamaru, your job is to protect Hinata. The little dog looked at his master and turned his head before giving a small bark. Going through the hand seals, Kiba slammed his hands on the ground. Earth and water style, terra firma tunneling Fong. Kiba began to spin and bounce around the mirrors as he was covered in earth and water. Kiba, why are you doing this? Haku thought from inside her mirrors. I think I'm starting to get a few cracks in these things. Just a few more. Suddenly one of the mirrors shattered. Taking Kiba's advice, the others ran out. Only Hinata looked back to see Kiba had stopped and was sitting in front of the fake hunter ninja. Why did you do that? The ninja asked. Sasuke and Shino are my comrades. Hinata is my teammate. I am a ninja of the village of Konoha. I would lay down my life for them. Kiba said, taking a deep breath. His eyes widened as he recognized the scent. Haku. I'm sorry, Kiba. Haku said, removing her mask. But I must do what I have to for Master Zabuza. She flicked her hand out and shot 2 Simban needles into Kiba's neck. He gasped and clutched his neck as blood began to leak out of his neck and mouth. Fuck, he garbled out as he collapsed, coughing up blood. Kiba, Hinata screamed. She ran to him and knelt next to him. No, 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 he said, tears dropping from her eyes. No. A pillar of white light shot upward, blowing back everyone. Kakashi had only been inches away from thrusting his lightning blade through Zabuza's head when his jutsu snuffed out and he and the others blasted back. What the fuck? Naruto asked. His eyes widened when he saw exactly what the fuck. Hinata stood over Kiba's dying body with bright white wings on her back. She bent down and held glowing white hands over Kiba's wound. The needles in his neck quickly crumbled to dust. Kiba's blood flowed back into his wounds, and the wounds closed. With a gasp, Kiba began to breathe again. Wow, she really is an angel, Naruto said. And the avatar of heaven, apparently, Kyuubi added. Well, this is interesting, said a voice. Everyone turned to see a small man with white hair, dark glasses, a business suit, and a cane with an army of thugs and mercenaries behind him. Gato, Zabuza introduced. Zabuza, sorry to say, but I'm afraid that you and several of your little playmates are going to die here, Gato said, though I might save the girls. He added with a leech's smile. You son of a bitch, Zabuza said, standing up, only to see Naruto walking ahead of him. I'm borrowing this, he said, stepping on the end of Zabuza's sword and flipping it in the air before catching it and resting it on his shoulder. He walked up to the army of thugs. The only person I want dead here is Gato. So I'm giving all of you a choice. Leave now or wish that you had. The response he gets was a lot of laughing and jeering. With a sigh, Naruto stabbed the bridge with his sword before going into a series of hand seals. Total eclipse, jutsu. A dome of darkness covered them all. No one could see inside of the dome, not even Hinata's Byakugan, because the darkness was made entirely of chakra. Inside the darkness, everyone was looking around the pitch blackness. Suddenly, a single fire appeared, and it seemed to be walking towards them. Their eyes widened in shock and fear as they saw that it was a flaming skeleton wearing the kid's cloths and carrying Zabuza's sword on his back, using a chain to hold it in place. Your souls are stained with the blood of the innocent, the creature rasped out. It leaps up and hurled down a series of 3-pronged kuni, flying fire demon jutsu. In a blink, the creature disappeared from sight only to reappear behind the army. When Gato spun around, his eyes widened as several were cut in half and missing limbs. There was no blood because their wounds had been closed off by the creature's flames. Your turn, the rider said, lashing out with his chain and catching Gato around his broken arm. He pulled on the chain, flicking wrist so that it would wrap around Gato until he was trapped in the rider's grasp. No, please don't. I'll give you whatever you want, Gato begged. Your soul is stained with the blood of the innocent, the rider rasped. Look into my eyes and feel their pain. Gato screamed as he felt the pain of the victims whose lives he had ruined both directly and indirectly by hiring thugs to do the dirty work. When it was over, the rider flipped the chain out, spinning away Gato's burnt, slashed, and bloody body away. Not bad, Mephistopheles said, appearing from the darkness, though I would have preferred if you had just outright killed him. Look at it this way. Now that he's in his own personal hell, it'll be a good warm-up until he goes down to see you, the rider said, wrapping the chain around him and sliding Zabuza's sword into it on his back. Not bad, the devil said as he faded back into the darkness. With a sigh, Naruto ended the jutsu and light began to refill the area. Naruto, Itachi asked, looking at his student. I'm fine, Naruto said with a wave of his hand. They're not. And with that, he passed out. Land of Waves epilogue. Naruto groaned as he pushed himself up. His head felt like there was a bass drum beating in his skull. Naruto, are you okay? Kiba asked. Naruto looked up and saw him, Hinata, Kurama, and Akamaru standing over him. I'm good, Naruto said, holding up his hand to his friends. I feel like my skull's on fire, but I'm good. Everyone chuckled at the joke. Naruto tried to stand up, but slipped into Hinata's arms as she helped him. Thanks. She and Kiba helped him to his feet and helped him settle him on his feet. You've been out for about a day, Hinata explained. I tried to heal you with my new powers, but I was blown away when I tried. Seeing as how your powers seem to be angel-like, I would have to guess that it was something to do with the fact that I'm Hell's bounty hunter. Naruto muttered before turning to Kiba. How you doing? Hinata's good, didn't even leave any scars. Kiba said, rubbing his neck. Not that I don't mind, but where'd the power come from? Naruto asked. I don't know, but when I felt it awaken, I heard my mother's voice telling me that I was given the power from the White City of Angels to become the Avatar of Heaven. Hinata said. Mephistopheles said something about avatars too. We'll have to figure it out later. Naruto said. Together, the team made their way into the main dining room. Hey Naruto, how you feeling? Itachi asked, standing up and walking next to his student. I'll be okay, Naruto said with a smile. Looking around, he raised an eyebrow at the sight of Haku and Zabuza sitting at the table. What's up, kid? Zabuza said, waving a bandaged arm. Just curious as to what you two are doing here, Naruto said, lowering himself into a chair. Well, after that blast of Hinata's knocked away Kakashi's attack, my arms were already burned by Itachi's jutsu, Zabuza explained. Not to mention knocked me out after Haku started, but found she couldn't finish. I tried to heal Zabuza's arms, but there was only so much I could do, Hinata explained. Basically, I can't use anything heavier than a katana, Zabuza summed up with a shrug. So I'm still a swordsman, just a more restricted swordsman. What about your own sword? Naruto asked, looking over at the giant blade that was resting against the wall. As much as it would kill me to see it being used by someone else, it would kill me even more to see it do nothing but rust and attract dust, Zabuza said. So how about it, kid? Would you like to be its next wielder? Everyone in the room went wide-eyed and slack-jawed. And me? Naruto asked. But why? If for no other reason, you were able to use it before back on the bridge, Zabuza explained. The sword is forged out of my own heart and soul, so to speak. But I did use some of my own blood and chakra when I created it as a precaution so that no one else could use it, except you were able to. Standing on his own, Naruto walked forward and placed his hand on the blade. He felt it this time, a low pulse that felt like it was in tune with his own heartbeat. I will take the sword, Naruto said. But, with your permission, Zabuza, I want to meld it down and reforge it, make it my own sword. Zabuza chuckled. I would have been insulted if you didn't ask if you could do that, kid, he said, smiling through his bandaged. But what about you two? Kiba asked, looking at Haku, who refused to meet his eye. I've been talking to them, Itachi said. Even though he can't use his Zanbato anymore, Zabuza is still an exceptional ninja, as is Haku. So if they wanted, they are welcome come to Konoha and become ninjas of our village. They're both strong ninja. I have no doubt that the Hokage would turn them away, Hinata said. It wouldn't be them I'd be worried about, Naruto said. It's Danzo and that damn civilian council. What do you mean? Sakura asked, interested because her mother was on the council. Naruto snorted in disgust. Those bastards have been making life for ninjas harder and harder, jacking up prices on equipment, making the classes so easy that they just need book smarts. He shot a look at Sakura that made her flinch slightly, and favoring certain clans. This time his eyes landed on Sasuke. Basically what Naruto's saying is that they will try to tip off the village hidden in the mist to Zabuza's whereabout in hopes of getting a reward or something, Kiba said. Of course, if they do try, it might turn to war between our village and theirs, Hinata said. Not to mention they'll have to deal with an angel, a spirit of vengeance, and someone who has the potential to become as strong as the first two Hokages, Naruto said with a smile, pointing to Hinata, himself, and Kiba in turn. What makes you think you three are so special? Sasuke demanded. As a team and as individuals, they are all clearly stronger than we are, Shino said. Sasuke growled and tightened his grip on his fist. Don't sell yourself short, Shino. Sure, Sasuke's got his ego problem and Sakura's so weak she couldn't fight her way out of a wet paper bag. But you've got a tactical mind, and those bugs of yours can sap the chakra out of anyone, Naruto said. Don't you dare belittle my students, Kakashi snapped. I wasn't. I was just pointing out to one of your students that he's stronger than his teammates, Naruto said with a smirk. Zabuza and Haku were glancing at each other and chuckling slightly. Oh, I am definitely going to like this kid, Zabuza muttered. Of course it's the other one that's got your eye, isn't it, Haku? Zabuza said, shooting his adoptive daughter a look. I don't know what you mean, Haku said, but still blushed slightly, causing her father figure to snigger at her. After everyone was healed up, the two Leaf teams and their new companions stood at the end of Tizuna's completed bridge. Thank you all for everything. You've given this town its soul back, Tizuna said with a smile. Now all that's left is to figure out a name for the thing, he said, scratching his head in thought. How about the Great Naruto Bridge? Inari suggested. Naruto chuckled before placing his hand on Inari's head. Thanks for the offer, kid, but I can't take all the credit, he said. How does the Three Kingdoms Bridge sound, old man? Tizuna stroked his chin before smiling. Sounds pretty good, kid, he said, bidding the group off. As they traveled, Zabuza and Itachi discussed things about how the village was going to go while Kiba was trying to talk to Haku. Are you doing okay? Kiba asked. I should be the one asking you that, Haku said. I mean, I did kill you. Hey, death is part of the job, Kiba said. I just got lucky enough to have someone on my team who could pull me back from the edge, Kiba said with a smile. Akamaru barked on Kiba's head and jumped over, landing on Haku's shoulder. And it looks like Akamaru likes you too. Haku smiled at the little white puppy licked her cheek. When they reached the village, the guard stopped them. Who are these two other ninja? One of them asked. They are Zabuza Momochi and his adopted daughter Haku, and they wish to join out village, Itachi explained. We wish to take them to the Hokage. The guard nodded and led the group to the Hokage tower. It was a welcome break from his paperwork that the Hokage was debriefed on their mission. So the two of you wish to join our village? The Hokage asked, looking back and forth between the Momochis. Yes, Lord Hokage, Zabuza said. The Hokage took a puff from his pipe as he thought it over. Well, you Zabuza, being a missing nin, will have to be on probation for a month or so before we can officially make you a jonin of this village, he said. You Haku, however, I could have you put in any field you wish. I wish to become a field medic, sir, Haku said. I have experience with it after killing Zabuza and then nursing him back to health. Everyone chuckled at that. Very well, the Hokage said, rummaging around and pulling out two headbands and a Chunin vest. I've been meaning to get a medical ninja program started for a while now. Thank you, Lord Hokage, Haku said with a bow. Now there is just the matter of where you're going to live, the old man said. They can stay at my place if they want to, Naruto offered. I doubt that Mom will mind. Very well, Naruto, the Hokage said. From now on, Zabuza and Haku Momochi will be staying at the residence of Kushina and Naruto Uzumaki. Did you say Kushina Uzumaki? Zabuza gasped. The legendary red whirlpool of death. The what now? Naruto asked, stunned. You mean you don't know? Zabuza asked, stunned. Kushina Uzumaki is the greatest swordsman from the village hidden in the whirlpool. Wow, guess I got a swords teacher now. Naruto chuckled, rubbing the back of his head. Before he could run home and see his mom about sword lessons, though, a pair of ANBU appeared. I apologize for the interruption, Lord Hokage, but the councils have called the presence of Zabuza and Haku Momochi, Naruto Uzumaki, Kiba Inuzuka, and Hinata Hyuga. One of them said. Sasuke Uchiha's whining again, isn't he? Naruto asked. It's not my place to say, the EMBU operative said. That's a yes, Kiba said. Hey, would you guys mind doing me a favor and let my mom know that I'm back in the village? Naruto asked. They wouldn't mind at all, the Hokage said, glaring in the ANBU's directions, giving them a silent order to do as Naruto requested. Well, let's go give the Winnie brat his bottle, Hinata said, walking out of the office with her teammates and the Momochis. When they entered the council room, the small roar died down. Glancing up, Naruto was a little surprised to see the Hokage sitting at his seat. Pretty quick for an old man, Zabuza muttered. He's the village leader for a reason, Kiba muttered back. All right, what's the problem this time? Naruto asked in annoyance. Hold your tongue, demon, one of the civilian counselors snapped. Naruto just rolled his eyes. This council has been brought together at the request of Sasuke Uchiha, the Hokage said. Sasuke, meanwhile, stood in front of the civilian council with a smirk on his face. Apparently, he requests the sword of Momochi Zabuza and the claws of the Demon Brothers to help strengthen his clan. Also, he requests, with Kakashi Hatakai's support, that Haku Momochi and Hinata Hyuga be made his brides to help with the Uchiha clan's reveal. What? Zabuza shouted while Haku and Hinata crept closer together. Naruto and Kiba meanwhile stepped forward. Naruto drew Zabuza's sword and Kiba called up his claws and the two of them crossed the two weapons in front of the girls. "If you want them, you son of a bitch." "Sorry, Lady Uchiha," Naruto said, glancing up at the woman on the ninja council. "You'll have to go through us." "All of us," Zabuza said, joining the boys and cracking his knuckles. A moment later, Hayashi joined them as well. "Those two bitches should be happy to be named by brides." Saruk sneered. "That is enough," Itachi snapped, standing in front of the group. "Brother or not, I will not let you talk about my students like that." His eyes snapped open to reveal Mangekyo Sharingan. These are the cursed eyes of an Uchiha who kills his closest friend. Before the Fox Rider killed them, I was forced to kill my best friend and was cursed with these eyes. Do not think that just because you're my brother, I won't turn them on you, Sasuke, if it means protecting my students. All of a sudden, several Yinbyu ninjas appeared in the room. "Do you guys really want to deal with all of us?" Naruto asked, creating two shadow clones, one with his sayas and another with his chain, while the original still held Zabuza's sword. Haku conjured a set of sunbon needles from ice. Zabuza dropped into a fighting stance. Kiba flexed his claws, and Hinata stood forward and let her wings explode from her back, causing everyone who hadn't seen them before to stare in awe. "Enough!" the Hokage shouted, releasing enough killing intent to drop most of the people in the room to drop to their knees. "Sasuke, you have no right to claim these women as your brides because you are not the only male Uchiha left, and those weapons have been claimed or given to those who have received them. Lord Hokage, we cannot let the Uchiha clan become any weaker than it is." Danzo spoke up. "The Uchihas is strong enough." Kodoto Uchiha spoke up. "Despite the fact that those on the civilian council have boosted my youngest son's ego." She shot a glare in Sasuke and the civilian councils. "Itachi has kept this clan at its true strength, and with the hope that he and Sasuke will find women who love them and are able to produce great heirs one day." "I suppose that settles that then," the Hokage said. "Sasuke, you will not revive what you have asked for." "You can't do that, old man," Sasuke shouted before he dropped to his knees, images of his death at the Hokage's hands flashing before his eyes. "Remember this, boy," the Hokage growled. "I am the Hokage of this village, not you. You do not tell me what to do. This council meeting is now over." The finality of his voice left no room for discussion. When the councils left, the Hokage remained behind for a moment and walked up to the group along with Mrs. Uchiha. "I apologize for my younger son," she said, bowing to the Momochis and the Hyugas. "It's okay, Mrs. Uchiha," Haishir said. "Like you said, the village has spoiled Sasuke." "I have a question though, Hinata," the Hokage said. "Where did you get those wings?" "I'm not sure, Lord Hokage," Hinata said. "After Kiba was injured during our mission, I just felt this power exploded inside me, and I had these powers." "I can answer that question, however," Hishane said. "You see, Hinata is half angel on her mother's side. She chose to come down from what she called the White City to live life amongst us humans for a while. We met and fell in love. She said, however, that all of her angel abilities were transferred to Hinata and made her body weak. It was after Hanabi's birth that my Hanabi died." After he said that, a single tear escaped his eye. "So I'm half angel?" Hinata asked. "That explains a lot," Naruto said. "Your beauty and kindness, for example," Naruto said with a smile. Hinata blushed at the compliments. "No kidding," Kiba added with his own smile. "Stop it too, you're embarrassing me," Hinata said, covering her face in her hands, causing everyone to laugh. "Well, I need to go check in with Mom, not to mention find a weapons shop so I can melt this blade down and reforge it," Naruto said. "You can swing by my aunt and uncle's weapon shop, Naruto," Kiba offered. "My aunt was better at healing them with dogs. It's ironic that she ended up marrying a weapon specialist." He took out a card and handed it to Naruto. "Nice, thanks Kiba," Naruto said. "But first things first, I'll see you guys later." Naruto left with Zabuza and Haku. N/FR. Naruto opened the door and walked in. "Hey Mom, I'm home and I brought a couple of stray ninja," Naruto called. "And who might they be, Pipsqueak?" said a woman with dark brown hair and red eyes with a smile, standing in the doorway to the kitchen. "Aunt Kuranai," Naruto shouted, running up to the woman and jumping into her arms. "Nice to see you too, Pipsqueak," Kuranai said, ruffling the blonde boy's head. "So, have you finally accepted Asuma's date yet?" Naruto asked. "No, still making it hard for him," she said. "What about you and Hinata?" she added teasingly. Welcome home, Naruto, Kushina said, walking into the room, but froze when she saw Zabuza, whose eyes went wide at the sight of Kushina. Zabuza, Kazina gasped. You two know each other? Naruto and Haku asked in unison. Back in the day, I was the emissary between the village hidden in the mist and the Whirlpool village. Zabuza explained. That was where I met your mother, Naruto. I would have never guessed that you of all people were her son. Zabuza and I were lovers during that time, Kushina said. And no, Naruto, you don't have any siblings. It was after Zabuza left his village and I left mine and met your father. The rest, well, is history. Wow, Naruto said, glancing at Haku. It's almost like we're siblings, isn't it? Haku smiled and nodded. Oh, is this your daughter Zabuza? Kushina asked. Adoptive daughter, yeah, Zabuza said. She's actually going to be a medic ninja around here now, he added with pride. Impressive, she said before glancing at Naruto and seeing Zabuza's sword strapped to his back. Naruto, why do you have Zabuza's sword on your back? The kid sensei did a bit of a number on me, Zabuza explained, showing his bandaged arms. Basically, I can't hold that giant sword anymore, but I can still use a basic katana. In that case, I have something for you, Kushina said, leaving the room for a moment before coming back with a sword with a black sheath, a whirlpool hilt guard, and a red hilt with whirlpool's designs on it. The sight of it caused Zabuza's eyes widened in shock. That's, he gasped. The red whirlpool, Kushina said. The legendary sword of the village of the Whirlpool passed down through the Uzumaki family. Since you've given my son your sword, I would be honored if you would take ours. The honor would be mine, Zabuza said, taking the blade and popping it open, and stared at the blade. It's as beautiful as I remember, just like you, Kushina. Naruto and Haku looked at each other. Is your dad thinking about hitting on my mom? Naruto asked. Looks like, Haku said. Before we know it, we'll really be siblings. As long as I'm the maid of honor at the wedding, Kushina said. They all laughed at that. Well, as creepy as this moment is, I need to change up this weapon and make it my own, Naruto said, standing up. Well, we'll come with you, Kushina said. A couple of sword masters could probably give you some pointers. Right, Naruto said. Well, let's get going then. Kiba recommended a place that I could get the job done. Then you'd better get going, Kushina said. Come on, Haku, I'll show you some of the sights around here. Thanks, Haku said as she got up to leave. Have a good time, Kushina said. And don't even think about introducing innocent little Haku to Anko. Kushina had a smile on her face as she left with the ice using ninja. N/FR. Naruto walked into the weapon shop with Kushina and Zabuza and looked around. Dozens of weapons and other ninja tools lined the walls. Dang, heck of a lot of weapons around here, Zabuza said. Wouldn't mind giving a few of them a test run. Only way that'll happen is if you buy them, said a young woman with buns in her hair. Welcome to the Yumino weapon shop. I'm Tenten, my family owns the shop. Yumino? As in Iriki Yumino? Naruto asked. That's my dad, Tenten said. Do you know him? He was my favorite teacher back at the academy, Naruto said. And this also explains why he would never go out with my mom on a date. You always did try to set me up with him, Kushina said. Oh yeah, you're Naruto Uzumaki, right? Tenten said. Dad would always talk about you. Well, what can I do for you? Well, I need to melt this sword down and reforge it, Naruto said, placing Zabuza's sword on a nearby table. At the sight of the weapon, Tenten's eyes widened in surprise. Why in the world would you want to destroy such a beautiful weapon? She asked/accused. Because that sword belongs to another warrior. This one actually, Naruto said, jerking his thumb back at Zabuza, and I want to reforge it as my own blade. That is a good reason, Tenten admitted. Are you going to need any help with the melting and reforge? That's what we're here for, Kushina said. All right, Tenten said, and escorted them back to the forge. Together, the group proceeded to melt down Zabuza's weapon and mixed it in with a few other metals. Naruto had a few ideas for what he wanted to do with the new weapon. For a while, the group worked tirelessly until they finally completed the weapon. When they finally finished it, they worked for a week with Naruto's shadow clones to master swordsmanship. When it was all over, Naruto smiled. With everything they had done, Naruto now had a special set of swords that were capable of combining into a single Zanbato. And I thought it was amazing before. Tenten said, eyes wide and practically drooling. Let's see what this bad boy can do in action, Naruto said with a smile. Shadow Clone Jutsu. 5 other Narutos appeared. "All right, boys," Naruto said, popping his 5 other swords out towards his clones. For a few minutes, the group battled other with the blades alone before they started to use the special features that Naruto had thought up. The original split his 2 swords in half and charged at the one of his clones whose sword was more of an edge of a sword with a handle. Said clone swung his sword, and it separated out like a whip. Naruto blocked it with one blade before running the clone through. The next 2 clones to attack extended the hilts on their swords and flipped the blades down, making them scythes. They swung them at Naruto, who used his 2 swords to block them, and swung his swords, lashing out with one wave of wind and one wave of fire, blasting the 2 clones into smoke. The final 2 clones just lengthened their swords into spear and lunged at Naruto. Swinging his swords, Naruto forced the blades into the ground and slid the swords up the lengths of the shafts before slicing the clones' heads off. "Not bad, kid," Zabuza said, applauding slightly. "That was impressive, Naruto," Kushina said. "Your training's paid off." "Well, when you're being trained by the best," Naruto said in an offhand manner as he reassembled his sword. "Looks like things just keep getting more and more interesting around here." Naruto, Fox Rider. The Chunin exams. Naruto and the others sat on logs after a harsh training session with Itachi. Naruto, with the help of the new ENBU agent Zabuza and his mother, he had become a fairly decent swordsman. Hinata had also developed a rather impressive array of abilities with her new angel abilities, including the ability to heal, although she still couldn't heal Naruto because of his demonic connection, as well as flight and the ability to fire waves of light, like a long ranger version of her gentle fist. Kiba had also made a lot of progress with his skills. After working on increasing his chakra reserves, he had been able to perform a few low-level wood-based jutsus. Itachi looked up after his students had finished their exercises to see a hawk flying overhead. "Looks like it's time," Itachi thought. "All right, guys, I've got to take care of something, so feel free to do what you like for the rest of the day." And with that, he disappeared in a puff of smoke. "What do you think Itachi-sensei needed to take care of?" Hinata asked. "Who knows?" Kiba said. "I wouldn't mind getting some chow, though." "I'll second that," Naruto agreed, making their way to Ichiraku, but paused and glanced behind them to see a perfect square following them. Naruto glanced over at it before looking at his teammates and smirked. "Hey Kiba, bet you a bowl of ramen that I can fling that rock to the Hokage monument," he said. Kiba glanced at the rock and smiled as well. "All right, I'll take that bet," Kiba said. Naruto smirked and pulled his chain off his chest. Wait. Konohamaru shouted, jumping out of the box with his best friends Magi and Udon. Naruto, Kiba, and Hinata burst into laughter at the trio. "Word of advice, Konohamaru, rocks isn't perfect squares," Hinata offered. "And what are you guys doing anyway?" Naruto asked. "I thought I told you to be a kid, Konohamaru, and I'd be you sensei. Probably these two too." Magi and Udon's eyes seemed to shine at the prospect of being Konohamaru's teammates and Naruto's students. Suddenly, Naruto felt a ripple of energy through his body, making his stomach clench up. "What the hell was that?" Naruto asked his tenant. "If I had to bet money, I would my little brother," Kyuubi said. "Which one? You've got like 8 of them," Naruto demanded. "6 actually, I've got 2 sisters," Kyuubi said. "Anyway, if I had to guess, I would say that it's my baby brother." Naruto looked up and around trying to find the source. His friends called after him, but he didn't hear them. "Kurama, can you sense anything?" Naruto asked. "I think I know, follow me," Kurama said, taking the lead. Naruto followed his partner and rounded a corner only to bump into a ninja wearing a black suit and war paint on his face with a bundle on his back. "Hey, you should watch where you're going, you little bastard," the man said, grabbing Naruto by the collar of his shirt. "Look, buddy, I get that I bumped into you, and I'm sorry, but right now I've got some bigger fish to fry," Naruto said. "Put the kid down, Kankuro," said a woman's voice as Naruto's teammates appeared. "But Temari," Kankuro said. "I'd listen to her if I were you, pal," Kiba said, attaching his claws. It gave Naruto enough of a distraction to pull his head back and crack it against Kankuro's. The surprise and pain caused Kankuro to drop Naruto, who drew his sayas and placed one of them at Kankuro's neck. Temari tensed, but soon felt a hand at her back. "Don't even think about it," Hinata said. "Kiba, think you can cover Makeup Boy for me?" Naruto said. "No problem," Kiba said, shifting into a feral state with Akamaru. Naruto sheathed his sayas and pulled off his chain and started swinging it over his head. Listen up, baby brother. This is your eldest speaking. Come out now, and I won't wrap my chain around your neck and haul you out here." Naruto called out. After a moment of waiting, Naruto threw his chain at the tree where it seemed to wrap around something. "Get over here," he shouted and pulled on the chain and yanked down a red-haired kid with a gourd on his back. "Now, before I let you go, you and your friends here are going to tell me what the hell a team of Suna ninjas are doing in our village." Ever hear the expression, "it's darkest at the base of the lighthouse"? Temari asked. Kiba said. She means that sometimes foreigners will have a better idea about what's going on in the area than the locals. Hinata explained. "And we see who the brains of the team are," Kinkaro said, ignoring Kiba's growl. "So we asked the question again, what the hell are you doing here?" Naruto demanded. "We're here for the Chunin exams," Temari stated. "The Chunin exams?" Naruto asked with a raised eyebrow. "Guess that explains where Itachi-sensei went." Now then, Naruto pulled on his chain and looked right into Gaara's eye. Listen and listen well, baby brother. Naruto's eyes shifted into Kyuubi's. At the sight of it, Gaara's eyes changed into yellow with star-like pupils. "While you're in my town, you are going to behave yourself. Because if you put so much as a toe out of line, father and his opposite help you, I will rip the two of apart and send you back to hell." At the end of the declaration, his eyes changed back to normal, and he loosened the chain and pulled it off Gaara and wrapped it around his body. "Kiba, Hinata, let's get going." The two ninja and dogs sat up and followed their teammate as he led them away. "See you guys at the Chunin exam," Kiba called over his shoulder with a smirk. "Naruto, why did you keep calling him baby brother?" Hinata asked. "Because while I hold the 9 tails inside me, he's got the 1 tail," Naruto explained. His teammates' eyes widened and looked at each other. "So you mean to tell me there's another rider in the village?" Kiba asked. "Maybe," Naruto said, "which means stay inside when the sun goes down." "Are you saying our souls are stained with innocent blood?" Kiba asked. "No, I'm saying better safe than sorry," Naruto corrected. Naruto's right. The penance stare only works if there's innocent blood on a person's soul, but it doesn't stop Naruto from beating someone who is innocent to death. Hinata said. "Are you guys going to go hunting for him tonight?" Kiba asked. Naruto froze and looked back at his teammates. "Ever since I became the rider, I've been patrolling the streets of Konoha. I'm not going to stop just because another rider's in town," Naruto said. "Just be careful," Kiba said, stopping in front of his family's compound. "We're going to need your ass for the exams." Naruto smiled and bumped fists with him. Kiba left, leaving Naruto and Hinata alone as they walked back to the Hyuga compound. "So, how are things with the family?" Naruto asked. "All right. Father and uncle are working to try to set things up for the change in the Hyuga clan," Hinata said. The two of them were a little awkward around each other. "How are Haku and Zabuza settling in with you and your mom?" "It's all right. Although I think Zabuza and my mom are flirting, and it's freaking me out a little bit," Naruto said, shuddering. Hinata giggled. "Well, if your mom's happy," Hinata said. "Yeah," Naruto said. Slowly, Hinata's hand reached over and slid her hand into Naruto's. He blinked and looked at her. She was looking away, trying to hide her blush. Naruto smiled, and a minute later, they were in front of the Hyuga compound. "Well, I guess I'll see you tomorrow," he said, and started to turn away. "Naruto," Hinata cried. He looked back to see Hinata come up to him and kiss him on the cheek. "Be careful." Before Naruto could recover, she had already disappeared back into the family compound. "Wow," Naruto said. Naruto and Hinata sitting in a tree. "Kiss Genji," Kurama sang. Naruto glared down at his partner and cracked his knuckles. "I'd start running if I were you, you little furball," Naruto shouted and started chasing after his fox companion. By the time Naruto caught Kurama, night had fallen. "Come on, buddy, we'd better get back home," Naruto said as he turned towards his house. He froze, however, when he felt it, a burst of hell-born energy. He immediately burst into his own hellfire, and Kurama followed suit. "Let's ride." The rider growled, climbing onto Kurama's back, and the pair took off towards the source. A short while later, they came across a slim flaming skeleton garbed in a blue dress. Lying at her feet was a man suffering apparently from the penance stare. "Kyuubi," Naruto said, leaving the question unsaid. "Baby sister Nibi," Kyuubi replied. If Naruto had had eyes at the time, he would have rolled them. "Hello, little sister," Naruto said, grabbing the second rider's attention. Her flaming head whirled around before landing on Naruto. "You're a rider too?" She asked, her flames receding and her skin and hair regrowing. Had the 9 tails stuffed in me. Naruto said, having changed back when she had. I'm Naruto. Yagato. The girl replied. I've got the 2 tails. Naruto approached her, though his hand was close to his side just in case. Why did you use the stare on that man? He pulled a knife and tried to rape me. Yagato said. I burst into flames on impulse, and then I felt his guilty soul and gave him the stare. Naruto looked down at the man and recognized him as one of the council. One Naruto always got a feeling around, but could never find him in any shadows. I'd buy that. Naruto said. Well, I don't mind if it was in self-defense, but I'll tell you the same thing I told our little brother. If you cause trouble on my territory, I'll end you. Little brother, you mean the One Tails is here too? Yagato asked. Naruto nodded. Wow, 4 of us in one village. 4? Asked Naruto, narrowing his eyes. I hold the 8 tails, said a new voice. Naruto spun around to see a large skeleton in rust-colored flames sitting atop a flaming 8-tailed ox. B-sensei, Yagato whispered. Geez, close to half of us in one place. I hope this isn't a bad sign. Naruto muttered to himself. Hey little brother, Naruto shouted, earning a glare from the 8 tails rider. I told the One Tails, and I'm telling you, while you're in my village you'll behave yourself, or else. Or else what, your little brat? B asked. Naruto responded by bursting into flames and returning the elder rider's glare. Use your imagination, Ox Rider. Naruto replied, turning to Kurama, who had never left his hellfire form. Let's ride. Naruto mounted Kurama, and the pair took off, leaving the other 2 riders in their wake. The next day, Naruto walked up to his teammates yawning. Busy night? Kiba asked, catching sight of his best friend and rival. Not in the way you might think. Naruto said. Gaara's not the only other rider in the village. Hinata's and Kiba's eyes went wide with shock. Who else is here? Itachi asked. The 2 and 8 tails. Naruto said. Their names are Yagato and B. They're the Jinchuriki from Kyuubi. Itachi said. Hinata gasped. Naruto placed a comforting arm around her shoulder. Don't worry, Hinata, he said. We're not going to let anything happen to you. Definitely. Kiba agreed. Well, I'm sure this might have heard by now. The Chunin exams are taking place in the village this year, and I've recommended the 3 of you to take it. Itachi said, pulling out the necessary forms. The trio smiled as they took them and looked at each other. Take these forms to room 302 this afternoon by 3 o'clock. He disappeared, leaving the trio alone. So you guys want to do this? Kiba asked. Hell yeah. Kiba shouted, punching the air with his fist. Hinata meanwhile nodded. Then let's meet up at the school in 1 hour so we can get our weapons and stuff together. Pack everything you think is necessary, weapons, and first aid, whatever. Naruto said. Right? Kiba said and took off with Akamaru. Hinata meanwhile hung back a bit. So, about last night, Hinata started. In my defense, it was my first kiss, and I wasn't really ready for it. Naruto said. Hinata giggled at him. No, I was just wondering if you were mad that I just kind of surprised you with it. Hinata said. No, of course I'm not mad, Hinata. Naruto said, walking forward and holding her chin in his hand. I was actually wondering if maybe you could try it when I'm actually ready for it. Hinata blinked in surprise as Naruto leaned over and kissed her deeply. Hinata, startled at first, leaned into the kiss. A minute later, the pair broke apart, smiling. We should probably get going to get our stuff, Naruto said. Right, Hinata said, and the pair took off towards their respective homes. Don't say one word, or else Mom's getting a new scarf. Naruto growled at his partner. And that includes Akamaru. Hey, I wasn't going to say anything. Kurama chuckled. Naruto rolled his eyes as he and Kurama made their home. Hey Mom, I'm home for a bit. Naruto called. Hey there, sweetie, stopping by before the Chunin exams. Kushina asked her son. No surprise that you knew about it. Naruto said. I'm just dropping by for a bit to get my gear together for the big event. Naruto moved around his room collecting his sword, his chain, and various wrappings for injuries. He paused when he came to his father's kuni. Hey Mom, he called, walking into the living room. Did Dad have a special holder for his kuni? Kushina looked up at him and smiled. Wait here, sweetie, Kushina said, walking back into her bedroom. A couple of minutes later, she came back in with a white kuni holder decorated with flames at the bottom of it. This was your father's. Naruto took it in awe and held it. I know your father, wherever he is very proud of you. She hugged her son tightly. Be careful. The Chunin exams are extremely dangerous. People have died in the past during it. If it's that bad, then Dad'll see me a lot. Naruto said. Kyuubi's old man told me Dad's been working as death. Still, be careful, sweetheart. Kushina said, kissing his cheek. I don't know what I'd do if I lost you. You're not going to lose me, Mom. Naruto said with a smile. I'm too damn stubborn to die. Kushina smiled with her son. I used to tell you, Dad, the same thing. Kushina said. It's so weird hearing you say it because you look so much like him. I may have gotten my looks from my old man, Naruto said, strapping on his dad's old kuni holder in exchange of his own and loading it. But everything else came from you. Good luck, Naruto, Kushina said and looked down at Kurama. And you'd better take care of him or else I'll make you into a scarf. Kurama kind of gulped and nodded. Naruto smiled and turned to Kurama. Let's go, partner, Naruto said, and he and his partner took off running to the academy. An hour later, the pair arrived at the academy at the same time as his team. Ready to go, Fox Face? Asked Kiba. He had foregone his original coat in exchange for a white shirt and black shinobi pants and sandals. His gauntlets hung at his sides on straps that crossed in front of his chest. You really need to ask Fido, Naruto replied with a smirk. Then he turned to Hinata and nearly had a nosebleed. She was garbed in a skin-tight black ninja uniform that showed off her every curve. Hinata, wow. You can gawk later, Naruto, Hinata said with a wink, after we finish with the exams. Right, Naruto said, shaking his head to straighten himself out. Let's get to work. The trio started to make their way into the academy and towards the necessary room. Before they reached the room, however, they found a large group of people around the second floor at a room marked 302. Jinjutsu? Asked Naruto, glancing at Hinata. Jinjutsu, Hinata confirmed with a nod. Just keep on walking, Naruto said, leading his team past the room and the crowd. He thought he heard something behind them, but didn't look back. When they walked in the room, they found Itachi-sensei waiting for them. I'm glad you all decided to take the exam, the Uchiha said with a smile. We're the avatars of the three kingdoms of heaven, hell, and earth, sensei, Naruto said with a smile. We don't back down from any challenge. Itachi smiled and stepped to the side to allow his students to enter the exam room. As soon as they crossed the threshold, every eye in the room snapped to them. With a nod from Naruto, the trio released some of their chakra and let it swirl around them. Naruto's was a great burning red, Hinata's a soft but shining yellow, and Kiba's was a dark brownish green. What are you guys looking at? Naruto growled. Everyone quickly looked away from the trio. Well, that was troublesome, said a lazy voice. Naruto and Kiba turned to find their old friends Shikamaru and Choji walking up to them with their teammate Ino. It's good to see you, to Shadow Deer, Kiba said. How are the big butterfly and the mind boar? The second Ino Shikacho trio groaned at the nicknames. How do you put up with him? Ino asked Naruto and Hinata. The avatars of heaven and hell just smiled at her. The same way you put up with Shikamaru and Choji, I'd assume, Naruto said. They're your friends. Ino nodded but then squealed and became a purple blur with a squeal of Sasuke. The 5 remaining genin groaned as Shikamaru and Choji went to retrieve their teammate. Looks like they're here too, Hinata said. I don't mind Shino as much as the others, Naruto muttered as the group proceeded to join their fellow rookies. Sakura was currently in another shouting match with Ino about Sasuke. Shino was standing with his hands in his pockets, and Sasuke looked a bit more ticked off than usual. By the look of him, he'd been in a fight too. Damn, Uchiha, what happened to you? Kiba asked. Sasuke just growled in response, so everyone turned to a more reliable source of information, Shino. Sasuke foolishly challenged and lost to a fellow Konoha ninja named Rock Lee. Shino reported. Hey Hinata, isn't he on Niji's team? Naruto asked. Hinata nodded. Taijutsu specialist, insanely fast and strong, she reported. At that moment, a leaf nin named Kabuto walked up and started lecturing the group on Chunin exam edict and started bragging about his information cards. Sasuke had demanded information on Naruto and Lee, while Naruto had instead requested information on Gaara and Yagato. After the information sale, a team from the New Sound Village attacked Kabuto. After the attack, there was a large cloud of smoke in from the room. That's enough, you maggots, roared a voice. The Chunin exams start now.